Hello. Hi guys. Hope some people are online. Yeah, today also delay happened because right at quarter to 12, my power cut happened, and there was no power because we live in a state where uh, the power prices are so cheap, so that poor people can afford. But in the end, what ends up happening is that there isn't enough supply. When you artificially gouge the prices of a product from the government side, you end up not having enough of that product. So we have countless power cuts all the time. Okay. Uh, let's see. We have finished almost two-thirds of this paper. We reached page 75, I think. Okay, and from now on, I'm going to do live streams every night. Okay, every night, 12 to 2:30 p.m. 2:30 a.m. I'll keep mentioning it in my live stream today. Is audio coming fine? Yes, this is where we are supposed to start from. Seems like it. Subaltern Studies did a critical takedown of Mahatma, the conservative upper caste figure. Yeah. Now we finished this as well. Ambedkar and Pakistan. Yeah, we have finished this as well. I think about 10 pages of the paper was left. How many have joined? Okay, 3 people are watching. ये भी हो गया था. Wait, let me just check out how much we had done. Hmm, 91 तक हो गया. So just about 10-14 pages left. Okay, let's start. Yeah, let's start from the previous page so that a bit of mental recap can happen. So audio is coming fine, right? Referring to the debates between ulema ranged for or against the Pakistan demand, because there were people who were accepting the partition and there were people who were opposed to the partition, people who were called Qawmiyat-e Muttahida, because they wanted to turn entire Indian subcontinent as an Islamic state, because they believed India belongs to Islam, not that they belong to India. So we are discussing Venkat Dhulipala's paper. For those who are joining now, Venkat Dhulipala wrote this book called Creating a New Medina in 2015, which became the source material almost for people like Sanjay Dikshit, Deepak, and for the research of their books as well. And that book got some criticisms. And here in this paper, Venkat Dhulipala is addressing those criticisms. Okay. Metcalfe writes that Barbara Metcalfe, famous author, historian, really liked by leftists and liberals, etc., and Islamic scholars. So Barbara Metcalfe wrote that Dhulipala needed to recognize that this one-sided sources for Usmani and Thanavi require analysis in terms of standard debate rhetoric, where opponents are always silent, look abashed, change the subject, and so forth. She suggests that I have sometimes, quote-unquote, overread, that Dhulipala has overread the texts under analysis. It is difficult to understand the thrust of her criticism, especially her reference to one-sided sources. Firstly, it should surprise no one if Thanavi or Uthmani or Madni, Maulana Madni, who I think got a Bharat Ratna. Madni was one of the people who opposed partition. He got the Bharat Ratna for opposing partition, but actually he wanted to turn entire India into Pakistan. Uthmani or Madni made the strongest possible arguments for their respective positions. This is customary in any debate. Secondly, the opposing sets of ulema maintained courtesies of debate by carefully laying out their opponent's view, pointing out their weaknesses and critiquing them before presenting their own position and playing up its merits. For example, before aligning himself with the League and issuing fatwas in its favor, Thanavi sent questionnaires to the so-called nationalist ulema in the Jamiyat Ulema Hind as well as to the Muslim League to elicit their respective views on issues facing Indian Muslims and tried to find common ground between them. Similarly, his critique of the so-called nationalist ulema, while sharp, included a sober assessment of their claims. Their writings and pamphlets were thus hardly one-sided. Thirdly, for Metcalfe to refer to Uthmani or Thanavi's public speeches, statements or writings as being one-sided sources, or to their opponents as so-called always silent, looking abashed, Barbara Metcalfe is saying that when Venkat Dhulipala is citing these people, Thanavi, etc., Thanavi, Madni, he is only citing their side of the argument and not the counter arguments that were posed to them and their responses to those counter arguments. So this is what Dhulipala is now addressing that criticism now. For Metcalfe to refer to Uthmani or Thanavi's public speeches or to their opponents as so-called always silent, looking abashed, changing the subject and so forth, is profoundly misleading for another reason. Their utterances were not made in a vacuum but were part of a raucous public debate on vital questions confronting Indian Muslims, including the choice of supporting the Congress or the League, undivided India or Pakistan. Thus, Thanavi's fatwa Tanzim al-Muslimin, asking Muslims to spurn the Congress and organize themselves under the Muslim League's banner as Allah's Lashkar, his fatwas to Muslim voters to vote for Muslim League candidates, or his fatwas against Bande Mataram, Hindi, and the tricolour were widely circulated in by-elections in the UP legislature. These messages were forcefully countered by Madni and his associates, who through their own fatwas and arguments supported the Congress candidates and sought to defeat Muslim League candidates. The amplitude of campaigning by both sides was accentuated by the stakes involved. For the Congress, it was an opportunity to substantiate its claim of being India's only party that represented all Indians, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, language, or gender. Except Hindus. They did everything except represent Hindus or gender. For the Muslim League, it was a struggle for survival and the chance to bolster its claim of being the quote unquote sole authoritative and representative organization of the Indian Muslims. This debate between these opposing sets of ulema reverberated across India during the 1945-46 elections when the Uthmani and the nationalist ulema clashed with each other. In the light of these raucous public exchanges, it is strange for Barbara Metcalfe to refer to one-sided sources, more so since she concludes her review by observing that Dhulipala has richly succeeded in making a case for the extraordinary density of public debate on the Pakistan idea. So she criticized Dhulipala, and then on the point that she criticized Dhulipala, she ended up concluding the paragraph or the topic, that particular tangent, saying that Dhulipala has done a good job. The only place where Uthmani's opponents possibly, quote, look abashed or change the subject, but are by no means silent, is in an account of a meeting on December 7, 1945, between him and his opponents, Maulana Hussain Ahmed Madni, Maulana Hifz al-Rahmani Siu Harvi, and Mufti Kifayat Allah, to discuss Pakistan. According to this account, produced by Uthmani's side, Madni party begged Uthmani to stop campaigning for Pakistan or at least stay neutral during the 1945-46 elections. They presented him with a series of arguments to show how Pakistan would be an unmitigated disaster for both Islam and Muslims in the subcontinent. Besides questioning Jinnah's sagacity, credibility, and leadership, Uthmani demolished each of his opponent's arguments calmly and clinically, making it clear that he would not desist from campaigning for Pakistan. The account shows how this legendary alim rendered Madni and his associates speechless in the end through the sheer force of his arguments. For my part, I did try and locate other versions of this meeting that could modify this narrative, but despite my inquiries, I was unable to find any such account. And while it is true that the two letters that I reproduced verbatim at the end of chapter 6 of my book express somewhat bewilderment about Pakistan, they also reflect the clear realization that it would be a sovereign state. Hence, their writers refer to transfers of population for the sake of national homogeneity, which Ambedkar also wanted. Besides also invoking the so-called hostage population theory for the protection of national minorities. Just for people who are joining only today and have not heard the previous day's live streams on this paper, hostage population theory has been discussed by Deepak in the podcast with something Dhar, whose team does the illustrations for his book as well. He's a Kashmiri Pandit, Aditya Dhar or something. So hostage population theory means that I'll take care of your people who might belong to your religion or your country's culture, etc., who are living as minorities in my country, and therefore you will take care of my people who are living in your country as a minority. This was Pakistan's idea. This sounds pretty evil, but this was Pakistan's idea. Ironically, but then they didn't take care of their minorities, but we did, which is a direct violation of the Liaquat-Nehru Pact, which is why CA and NRC needs to happen. The hostage population theory for the protection of national minorities. Ironically, there is a one-sidedness in the way Barbara Metcalfe herself chooses references convenient for her argument and discards those that contradict it, before overreading them. Despite acknowledging the density of debate on Pakistan, she downplays the role of ideas and raises doubts as to whether they really mattered. Referring to the 1946-47 elections, dubbed a referendum on Pakistan, she asks, did people vote because of ideas? She answers the question by stating that when two Deobandis were at, this is quoting Barbara Metcalfe herself, quote, when two Deobandis were at loggerheads in the 1930s, yet a third Deobandi basically advised the reader to forget about ideas and follow whichever imam meant more to him. End quote. She seems to therefore imply, like colonialist writers before her, that the natives talk a lot, but in the end, their words amount to nothing. This is a nice finding by Dhulipala, that apparently this Barbara Metcalfe, who happens to align with Marxists a lot. Even Dhulipala might consider himself a Marxist, but Barbara Metcalfe, who is liked by liberals, leftists, etc., mysteriously happens to have a viewpoint that aligns, that behaves, that sounds exactly like what a colonialist would say. Okay, let me put my mic a little higher up. So it's no mystery, because that is the ecosystem of coloniality. Call for ideologically correct histories. If Barbara Metcalfe and Yasin Khan seek to push partition historiography back to the previous consensus that Jinnah reluctantly led a secular nationalist movement to create Pakistan, which he was forced into by the Congress, and about which there was widespread confusion, Manan Ahmed Asif realizes that the horse was bolted and we have a crisis. He therefore gets down to asking for ideologically correct histories in which historians discipline themselves and teach the laypersons correct histories in order to build bonhomie among India's dwelling communities. What the hell? Did you just hear what he said? This is the Shashi Tharoor school of thought. Shashi Tharoor actually ended up agreeing in his debate with Vikram Sampath in an India Today conclave that yes, there was nation building involved, that's why we made up all this history. He didn't use those words, he didn't say that we made up these histories, but when Vikram Sampath was pushing him hard that what is this history that is being taught, he ended up justifying it by saying that it was a part of nation building. So this is what nation building with false history sounds like. So who is this guy? Manan Ahmed Asif. You guys, if you all are online, Google him, okay? Let's see who this guy is. How's my audio coming? Yeah, okay. Audio is coming fine. So Asif begins his review. Okay. Teach the laypersons correct histories in order to build bonhomie among India's dwelling communities. Asif begins his review essay with a survey of partition historiography that it divides into 3 phases according to political transitions in the Indian subcontinental history. His first phase, quote, ends in either 1979 or 84, end quote, coinciding with General Zia-ul-Haq's regime, Mrs. Gandhi's assassination, and the anti-Sikh riots. The second phase goes from here till the mid-2000s, coinciding with the end of the first BJP government in New Delhi and the reopening of US aid to Pakistan in 2001. In the current phase, so 2001, US reopened aid to Pakistan, and then 9/11 happened. Nice. In the current phase, he notices that, quote, new archival work is emerging after a long gap, end quote. The first phase, according to Asif, was dominated by scholarship from the US and England, and here he mentions the work of Roger Long, Paul Brass, Peter Hardy, Craig Baxter, Ian Talbot, Wayne Wilcox, and Lawrence Zinning. He claims that their efforts concentrated on linking modernization theory, developed at Harvard. This theory held that post-colonial states can be made modern with the help of usually dictatorial strongmen and Western funding from bodies such as the World Bank and IMF, and its antecedent fascination with elite politics to the years leading up to the partition. Wait, did you guys just hear what this said? Check this out. No, okay, this has to be tied along with Rajiv Malhotra's findings about Harvard, right? I can't believe what I'm reading. This is an official position of Harvard. They are not even making any qualms about it. They are not even saying that no, that's not it. This is their official position. Check this out. Harvard developed this theory called what's it? Modernization theory, and how to have the modernization in the post-colonial countries. Dictatorial strongmen and Western funding from bodies such as World Bank and IMF, and its antecedent fascination with elite politics to the years leading up to partition. So this is how Harvard decided that post-colonial countries need to be civilized and modernized. Unbelievable. This part of this citation should have been in India, that is Bharat. They supposedly produced biographies of key figures and examined exigencies of politics from quote-unquote a highly structured perspective. So produced biographies of key figures. So you see, Gandhi was being propagated and being thrust upon people's faces because of this line of thinking. This was not coincidence. This was done officially as a declared position that this is how we will modernize India. They supposedly produced biographies of key figures and examined exigencies of politics. Now, today, I think now I know Why Gandhi, Gandhi, Gandhi is all that we read in history. This was the declared position of Harvard. Asif writes that the social and cultural aspects of the partition were absent in these works, since community as such was not within the purview of their analysis. They just wanted great personalities who will motivate and change India and modernize India, etc. The only problem with this seemingly erudite typology is that it is quite off the mark. To begin with, Asif gets basic facts wrong. Roger Long never published anything on partition or Pakistan during this so-called first phase. In fact, to this day, he has not published a single monograph in this area. His earliest venture into this territory is an annotated bibliography on partition scholarships, founding of Pakistan 1998. Craig Baxter, during this so-called first phase, is better known for monograph on the Bharatiya Jansangh 1969. His foray into Pakistan scholarship begins with an introduction to the translation of Sayyid Noor Ahmed's Urdu book into English, which was called From Martial Law to Martial Law, 1985, followed by an edited volume on authoritarianism in Pakistan in the 1980s, written in 1991, and Bangladesh, From Nation to a State, 1997. Ian Talbot's earliest publication during this period is an essay on the 1946 elections in the Punjab. His volumes on Punjab and the Raj and provincial politics and Pakistan movement appeared only in 1988. Wayne Wilcox's book deals with the problem of integration of princely states into Pakistan and is a counterpart to V.P. Menon's work on India, while Lawrence Zinning's work deals with Pakistan's post-colonial challenges and has nothing to do with the partition. How any of these volumes are linked to modernization theory developed at Harvard is left unclear. So yeah, Dhulipala is not countering the fact that there was something called modernization theory developed at Harvard. He is contradicting the claim made by Asif that these people were of the same opinion. So if you guys are joining just now, just rewind a few minutes back and check out what we discussed on Harvard's modernization theory and how they plan to modernize India. Okay. How any of these volumes are linked to modernization theory developed at Harvard is left unclear. Contrary to Asif's claim, none of these authors produced biographies of key figures, and as regards their examination of exigencies of politics from a highly structured perspective, one is left clueless as to what that means. just flowery language, no meaning. The one figure who did produce an important biography, Stanley Wolpert, Jinnah of Pakistan 1984, is missing from this lineup. So the only guy who made a biography of Jinnah, Asif did not mention him. Asif's caveat that none of them studied partition makes one wonder why he links them to partition historiography. Asif's bunching together of disparate set of historians such as Aisha Jalal, Gyanendra Pandey, Urvashi Butalia, Joya Chatterjee, Mushirul Hassan, Ritu Menon and David Galmartin is also problematic. These individuals asked different questions and were responding to separate intellectual and political contexts during the so-called second phase between 1984 to the mid-2000s. Aisha Jalal, who is the wife of Sugata Bose, Jalal's book needs to be understood against the backdrop of the crisis over East Pakistan in 1971, and more immediately, the hanging of Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and the takeover in Pakistan by General Zia-ul Haq. The subsequent stunification campaign that General Zia unleashed in Pakistan had much to do with motivating liberal Pakistanis to turn to the quote-unquote secular Mr. Jinnah for succor. This is not the Pakistan Jinnah would have wanted, became the rallying cry. Asif's silence on this context, especially on the role of the Pakistan army, speaks louder than words. Asif's assumption of a common zeitgeist for the subcontinent as a whole in the 1980s and 1990s, to which all these individuals were allegedly responding, is fallacious. It places India and Pakistan on the same footing when their post-colonial trajectories have been vastly divergent. This is the old attempt to say India and Pakistan are basically brothers. They are just two sides of the same coin. Looking at Asif's typology, one wonders how Jalal was affected by Hindu-Muslim and Sikh riots in India, which would have influenced the work Gyanendra Pandey, Urvashi Butalia or Mushirul Hassan, or how these historians or Jalal and Galmartin were influenced by the reopening of US aid to Pakistan in 2001. Asif perhaps expects the bedazzled reader to not ask any questions about the grand connections he makes between late 20th century and subcontinental zeitgeist geopolitics and scholarly agendas. On the current phase, Asif mentions the works of Faisal Devji, whom Dhulipala has been countering from beginning in this paper. Asif mentions the works of Faisal Devji, Wazira Zamindar, Farzana Sheikh, Niti Nair, and Yasmin Khan as important and having led to quote unquote the opening of new archives and the introduction of new analytical questions. Sheikh's inclusion in this phase is bizarre given that her most important work, Community and Consensus in Islam, appeared in 1989. It challenged the Jalal thesis inasmuch as it pointed to the inevitability of the partition given the incommensurability between the values of liberal democracy and the ideas of North Indian Muslim Ashraf elites who believed that only Muslims could rule Muslims. To suggest that Sheikh's work is part of a genre that sees Pakistan partition as a so-called process that unfolds slowly, unevenly, and at different costs for different communities is misleading to say the least. Moreover, the work of Faisal Devji and Yasmin Khan is based largely on printed sources and known archival material and did not open any new archives. Asif's attempt at a panopticon view of partition scholarship is therefore quite unproductive. Coming to my book, Asif begins by claiming that it quote unquote it takes as its central concern the differences between Hindus and Muslims, claiming that quote Dhulipala foregrounds the supposed foreignness of Muslim thought end quote. He suggests that I put forth a primordialist history in which monolithic Hindu and Muslim communities are always already locked in combat with one another. Yes, as if Dhulipala is claiming this for the first time, as if it's not the truth. This is Asif's claim. Are always locked in combat with one another. This is so fallacious. One wonders if Asif actually read my book. After all, my book is entirely about intense, wide-ranging and sophisticated debates within the Indian Muslim community on the question of partition and Pakistan. Nowhere does it posit a monolithic Indian Muslim community. Asif next states that in my formulation, Deobandi theologians who popularized the vision of Pakistan as a new Medina, quote, were guided by a vision of faith resistant to modernity, end quote. This again is not true. Rather, I show how these men were certainly not resistant to modernity. This is evident from Uthmani's advocacy of a close alliance between United States and Pakistan, for which he gave very modern reasons. He argued that Pakistan as a land of 5 rivers could imbibe valuable lessons from the US, which had mastered the technology of building dams and channeling water resources. वाह, ये प्लान तो गया. ये प्लान तो किसी ने सुना ही नहीं. Uthmani also marshaled facts and statistics about Pakistan's population, natural resources and armed forces, geopolitical locations, and trading links with other countries to argue the case for its developmental potential. This was the plan. मगर ये plan किसी ने सुना नहीं. Asif is dismissive of Uthmani, suggesting that he was an inconsequential figure during the Pakistan movement. He claims that it was only in 1972, when Pakistan was a different place, that Uthmani's writings were published and he was elevated to the pantheon of Pakistani national heroes. Here, Asif finally but obliquely hints at the creation of Bangladesh as a factor in the evolving historiography of Pakistan's creation. But his claim about Uthmani's insignificance is highly dubious. Uthmani importance can be discerned from the fact that he presided over Jinnah's state funeral, and it was to him that India's serving Governor General Rajagopalachari sent condolences on Jinnah's death, and not to Liaquat Ali Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan. More importantly, Uthmani was the main force behind the passage of the 1949 Objective Resolution in the Pakistan Constituent Assembly. The resolution put forth a clear hierarchy of sovereigns for Pakistan, that is Allah, then state, and then people. This is the Pakistan Constitution. The people come at the end. So, following its passage, Liaquat Ali Khan declares that Pakistan was founded because the Muslims of this subcontinent wanted to build up their lives in accordance with the teachings and traditions of Islam. As Sadia Saeed has noted, the ulama and Islamists were crucial in shaping the content of the Objectives Resolution. It was through the combined efforts of the ulama led by Uthmani and Islamists led by Abu Lala Maududi, Abu Ala Maududi, that references to Islam came to occupy with such a central place in the objectives resolution. She also came to occupy such a central place in the. She also highlights the observation of one Muslim League politician who claimed that these references to Islam were made solely to satisfy Uthmani. The objectives resolution was opposed by all members of religious minorities in Pakistan's Constituent Assembly, but was passed by the majority. This mirrored the popular understanding of Pakistan as an Islamic state, something that a sharp contemporary observer and scholar Wilfred Cantwell Smith acknowledged. The minority representatives pointed in vain to Jinnah's August 11, 1947 speech. Asif states that I build my case regarding Uthmani on the basis of a single pamphlet published in 1942. This is the accusation of Asif to Dhulipala, besides his speech in UP. This is part of his reduction of my book to being mostly about so-called boastful accounts of contending theologians and reports from colonial police surveillance. Asif's blindness to the many source texts and archives that I have utilized in my book reveals his unwillingness to simply see the evidence. My discussion of Uthmani is based on his speeches that he delivered across the length and breadth of India, including places in Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province and Bengal, besides UP, as also his writings and correspondence. Asif's claim that after a 30-page discussion of Uthmani's thought, I do not provide a single counter-debate that addresses his invocation of a new Medina is again bizarre. He completely glosses over the chapter 5 of my book, which details how the Jamiat Ulema Hind Ulema, associates of Madni aligned with the Congress, ridiculed the idea of Pakistan as an Islamic state, besides also providing detailed critiques about its economic, military and administrative feasibility. Madni, who lived in Medina for many years, was the one who originally introduced the metaphor of Medina to claim that just as Jews and Muslims there during the Prophet's time had become the Qaum, in India too, Hindus and Muslims could forge a composite nationality, Muttahida Qawmiyat, to overthrow the Raj. This interpretation of the Covenant of Medina invited searching critiques by the poet Muhammad Iqbal, Allama Iqbal, the Islamist Maududi, and the legendary Alim Thanavi, because Allama Iqbal had a great debate with Madni. That's what you guys should check out. This is the debate where Madni says, why do you want to go? Why are you leaving India for just that small piece of land called Pakistan? Yahan raho, pura bana lete hain. And that was the hint basically. Uthmani himself reiterated his master Thanavi's critique of Madni's interpretation, which I highlight in chapter 2 of my book, before introducing the metaphor of a new Medina. Madni never retreated from his position and only reiterated the ideal of Muttahida Qawmiyat, that is the anti-partition movement inside the Deoband Ulema, Jamiat Ulema Hind. For Asif to claim that I do not provide a counter debate is therefore highly disingenuous. Lagta hai para nahi Asif bhai ne. Asif insists that the source texts I used to substantiate my argument did not enjoy wide circulation, thus suggesting that the debate on Pakistan remained an elite exercise with no popular impact. In particular, he takes issue with my analysis of a pamphlet on Pakistan that was published from Bareilly in 1940 as also a Muslim League report on an Islamic constitution for Pakistan. So basically, you see, the scholars, especially the Pakistani scholars, historians, etc., their claim is that Jinnah was a secular leader. Whatever Muslim League did was just for to use it as a countermeasure to ask for better rights for Muslims while in India. Their claim is that they didn't even want Pakistan, or even if they wanted Pakistan, they wanted Pakistan to be a secular state because Jinnah at one point of his life used to be secular. So the fact that Pakistan headed to a different direction is no fault of Jinnah or no fault of the Muslim League of those days. That is their argument, which Dhulipala has essentially destroyed in his book. Asif insists that the source texts I use to substantiate my argument did not enjoy wide circulation. See, this is the claim that what Dhulipala is claiming to be a source text, these people are saying that no, it wasn't even that popular, thus suggesting that the debate on Pakistan remained a so-called elite exercise with no popular impact. Ground level pe koi sun nahi raha tha. That is their claim. In particular, he takes issue with my analysis of a pamphlet on Pakistan, which was published from Bareilly in 1940, as also a Muslim League report on an Islamic constitution for Pakistan. This is a bizarre comment. The fact that in the localities, individuals were thinking of Pakistan as a separate Islamic nation state even before the Lahore Resolution, publishing tracts about it, articulating ideas about its territory, government, foreign policy, and population transfers, etc., shows that Pakistan had become a popular idea at the grassroots. Okay? As the New York Times correspondent in India wrote at the time, उस वक्त लिखा, support for Pakistan is strongest in the provinces with Muslim minorities, end quote. The reception of Pakistan in small towns is underlined by the report of P.W. Radis, a serving ICS officer in UP. Visiting Muslim weavers in Tanda in Faizabad district, Radis asked them what they hoped to gain from Pakistan. Their blunt reply was that, quote, if the Hindus annoyed them, their brethren in Pakistan would be able to take revenge on the Hindus there. Okay, so even they are agreeing with the hostage population theory, that if Hindus do something to Muslims here, then we will take care of Hindus. We will harm Hindus in Pakistan, which they did anyway. Symbols of Pakistan's sovereignty were displayed across districts, towns, and kasbahs through marches of uniformed Muslim League National Guards with their swords and other accoutrements, the hoisting of the Muslim League flag as a national flag, prominent displays of Pakistan maps with its areas colored green on pandals at Muslim League political conferences and public meetings. So it had become a very commonplace, a very mainstream idea of Pakistan banana hai, kya karna hai. That was very mainstream already among the Muslims, especially Muslims who were minorities in the Hindu majority states of India, especially in those Muslims, in the minds of those Muslims. So this is what the Pakistani historians are ignoring. The Muslim League flag as a national flag, prominent displays of Pakistan maps with its areas colored green on pandals at Muslim League conferences and public meetings, distribution of card labels showing maps of Pakistan, and prominent positioning of Pakistan maps in front of groups. Pakistan हुआ भी नहीं, इन्होंने map बना दिया. Carrying taziyas and alams during Muharram processions. Asif has a similar problem with my examination of the Muslim League sponsored report regarding an Islamic constitution for Pakistan that was produced under the chairmanship of Maulana Syed Suleiman Nadwi. This report was included in the book for two reasons. Firstly, the fact that it was commissioned by the Muslim League leadership shows that they were thinking seriously about inaugurating some species of Islamic State in Pakistan. Secondly, while this report did not get any public airing in the 1940s, it became the primary source of recommendations made by the Talmati Islamia, a committee set up by the Pakistan Constituent Assembly to advise it on framing an Islamic constitution for Pakistan. The Talimati Islamia was again headed by Nadwi, who was specially invited from India for this purpose. Gail Minault's otherwise thoughtful review of my book also misses this point. Asif also takes issue with my analysis of Ambedkar's writings on Pakistan and is dismissive of Ambedkar's claim that he was, quote, the original philosopher of Pakistan, end quote. Unlike Devji, who acknowledges that Ambedkar's book was widely read and cited, Asif writes, Ambedkar's text did not circulate among Muslim voters or thinkers on any remarkable scale, and Dhulipala does not claim or show that it was. This is again disingenuous. From the vigor with which Pakistan's viability and logistical feasibility were discussed by proponents and opponents of Pakistan, using his themes and tropes, Ambedkar's influence is unmistakable. So Ambedkar's book on Pakistan was popular back then. It isn't popular anymore. No new Ambedkarite knows or has heard of this book. Almost no sociology graduate masters people haven't heard of his book Pakistan or Partition of India, or his or the predecessor to that book, which was called Thoughts on Pakistan, written in 1946. But it was popular among Muslims of those days. They were using his book to speak for or against Pakistan, against the idea of forming Pakistan. This is again disingenuous. From the vigor with which Pakistan's viability and logistical feasibility were discussed by proponents and opponents of Pakistan using his themes and tropes, Ambedkar's influence is unmistakable. If he was not acknowledged by those writing popular tracts, it is not surprising. Ambedkar himself wrote, quote, "Thoughts, ideas, and arguments contained in it have been pillaged by authors, politicians, and editors and politicians to support their ideas. I am sorry they did not observe the decency of acknowledging the source, even when they lifted not merely the argument, but also the language of the book." End quote. He also provided the reason for this omission. Quote, the book has displeased both Hindus and Muslims. That it is disowned by the Hindus and unowned by the Muslims is to me the best evidence that it has the vices of neither. During the 1944 negotiations, Hindus were pissed off with Ambedkar's book on Pakistan because he said that, why are you even claiming that Pakistan is yours? If they want it, leave them, let them be, let them go away. You are not safe with them. This is why Hindu nationalists got pissed off with Ambedkar. During the 1944 negotiations with Gandhi, Jinnah singled out Ambedkar's book among the many tracts on Pakistan, which compelled Gandhi to read it. And we hadn't even heard of this book until we grew up in this era of Sanjay Dikshit, Desai, Deepak, it's people like those. And Dhulipala himself. Jinnah singled out Ambedkar's book among the many tracts on Pakistan, which compelled Gandhi to read it. It also led to the production. So all these people read that book. Now we can realize that Ambedkar had read Gandhi read Ambedkar's book. Jinnah read his book. And then still it didn't open their eyes. It also led to the production of propaganda material on Pakistan under the auspices of the Home Studies Circle to respond to Ambedkar's book. All this speaks volumes about its circulation and impact. Asif is upset by how my book quotes with aplomb Ambedkar's comparison of Muslims in India to Nazi fascists and militant jihadis. He decries my not taking into account the so-called biases in Ambedkar's understanding of an antagonistic Hindu-Muslim past derived from colonial historiography with its own biases and prejudices. So Asif Bhai is saying that Ambedkar was too biased. Ambedkar didn't understand the Hindu-Muslim relation properly. Ambedkar was weak in it. Ambedkar was stupid. Ambedkar was stupid to claim that Hindus and Muslims have an antagonistic relation. It was a random fantasy made up by colonial historians. That is Asif's claim, that Ambedkar did not understand this and that it was not true. Otherwise, Hindus and Muslims were absolutely friendly until British historians meddled with facts. Asif has a point. Yes, Ambedkar was certainly influenced by colonial historiography on the Hindu-Muslim encounter. But the task of a historian studying the rise of Pakistani nationalism is to examine how existing historical literature, tropes, figures, events, symbols, concepts had an extraordinary valence and acceptability. Had an extraordinary acceptability among both the top leadership, Ashraf, Jinnah, etc., and the masses, and how they were critical to the success of the Muslim League during the process of popular mobilization. To dismiss them as so-called Orientalist cliches that became the building blocks of a false consciousness is facile. If one were to follow Asif's logic, the birth of Pakistan could simply be reduced to the success of British Orientalist knowledge. Denizens of the subcontinent in such an analysis are reduced to unthinking dupes, gullible consumers of this knowledge, with only the progressive historians surveying them left with rational critical faculties. This is a great point. This is what people usually argue, people usually talk about while discussing riots and stuff. Riots, partition, genocides, all the mass murders that have happened of Hindus in their hands. They claim that some people do politics, some poor people are motivated by, are falsely propagated random things, hatred, etc. by the top leadership. It's always the top leadership. So inherently they are saying that, without realizing it, that they are saying that all these people are stupid at the bottom level. Just because they are poor, they are absolutely brain dead, brainless, unthinking, stupid people who are just motivated to cause riots by the top leadership. It's the fault of the 2 or 3 people in the top leadership. It's not the fault of the masses. So then they are taking the colonialist position that these people are stupid, we need to modernize them. That is the colonialist and the colonialized thinking. And you can see that colonialized thinking in these claims. Denizens of the subcontinent in such an analysis They are reduced to unthinking dupes, gullible consumers of this knowledge, with only the progressive historian serving them left with rational critical faculties. Only the historians have rational critical faculties. बाकी सब लोग नीचे stupid हैं. Asif accuses me of writing so-called biased history, since I supposedly reproduce the colonialist perspective that, quote, an irrevocable break, both communal and sectarian, had already formed between communities in India before partition. So Asif is saying that Dhulipala ने जो ये claim किया है that an irrevocable break had already happened between Hindus and Muslims, Asif is saying this is false. Dhulipala is not understanding it, neither is Ambedkar. He further writes, quote, that his historical subjects held this view is beyond debate, but the book should have helped us understand the construction of their position. This is a strange accusation because, after all, my book carefully delineates the intricate ways in which various actors constructed their positions for or against Pakistan. As Kirthik Sasidharan has noted in his perceptive essay, quote, thinking about Pakistan was complex, self-aware, and underscored by a density of thinking and borrowing from a common Islamic past, with the individuals involved here being self-aware enough to parse the lineaments of their own influences. For Asif to therefore claim that I read my sources uncritically and take them at face value is simplistic. Hi guys, wait, let me tell you something. All this time my chat was frozen for some reason, okay? And I was wondering, क्या हुआ आज कोई comment क्यों नहीं कर रहा है? I thought my video must have been hanged or I'm doing a boring live stream or something. Okay, so you guys are talking among themselves, and until now I had not seen one single comment. The last comment I had seen was that Harsh Ravi said that hi, etc. I'm finally reading the messages, okay? So let me know if you guys asked something all this while. So yeah, nice discussion going on. I'm not going to read all the comments now, but you guys are mostly talking amongst yourselves, so that's good. Let me read some comments. You're forgetting Shubhendu Adhikari was involved in Sharda scam, Rose Valley scam during his TMC days. Anushulan Shomiti never fought against Muslims. Right. This is exactly why he will try harder to prove his loyalty to the Hindutva cause. Shamiti did it in a way, as Muslims supported Pakistan, they fought against it. Yeah, Abhay, I think you or someone else in my comment section had discussed this previously as well, when I was being sort of I was being a little judgmental of Shubhendu Adhikari, that I'm not too hopeful from him, etc. So you or someone else had mentioned that, see, even Himanta Biswa Sharma has come from the Congress. He's doing such a good job. But my agreement here is with Rohan Chhatra, basically, that he came to BJP not because of any ideological leaning. He came just because he had to run away. That is my thinking. Now, maybe he will try hard, but the problem is that what is in his heart? That is what I'm bothered about. I know what's in the heart of Dilip Ghosh. I know what's in the heart of Shukanta Majumdar. I know what's in the heart of even Tarun Jyoti Tiwari. Tarun Jyoti Tiwari is doing a absolutely great job. He's a linguistic minority in the state. He speaks such great Bengali. He always posts in Bengali. When he posts Facebook posts and statuses, he always writes in Bengali. Tarun Jyoti Tiwari is doing a great job. I have no expectations or hopes from Shubhendu Adhikari other than the mass mobilization, ground level politics factor. So I won't be surprised if someday he just randomly takes all his men and leaves for TMC, okay? If someday TMC gives him a better post or something. Maybe he will be afraid because of the scam, etc. But I wouldn't be surprised if he betrays this entire party or this movement. But I would be surprised if Tarun Jyoti Tiwari does it or Dilip Ghosh does it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Shubhendu Adhikari does it. Harsh is saying, Harsh is a musician, by the way. So he's a musician and even I'm a musician. We are all discussing politics here. It's nice. ट्राई करने से क्या होगा, कैपेसिटी भी होनी चाहिए और इंटरनेशनल प्रेशर भी तो होगा उसका क्या. Remember the narrative outside India is that India is oppressing Muslims. Yeah. Even Himanta Da has not been able to deport illegal immigrants in Assam. Yeah, Himanta Da can't do it on his own. NRC and CA has to happen. So let's see. The worst case scenario is that people don't get deported, but at least from now on, whoever comes, they are not allowed to enter, or then they are deported. Not the people who have been already living here for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That's the worst case scenario, and maybe we will have to be happy with that. That is a possibility. And I think the government gave the local district magistrates the power to legalize their citizenship. So, which is the part where non-Muslims from other countries, they get the citizenship. That part is already being fast tracked. That power has already been done in Gujarat, I think, to some extent. A lot of district magistrates have been giving out citizenships. To at least they have the power to do so. Okay, let's continue with this paper. Oh, this paper is almost over. Conclusion mein aa gaye. Nice. We discussed a gigantic paper. Okay, is the chat frozen again? What is happening today? Chat बार बार refresh करना पड़ रहा है. No, chat is not frozen. Asif's plea. Okay. Asif pontificates that the need of the hour is not books like mine that give credence to the articulations of Muslim League leaders and intellectuals about so-called Muslim foreignness to India and of Islam having its origins in Arabia. Rather, it is works like those of the Indian Marxist historian Muhammad Habib. So you see where he's going with this argument. Asif is saying ये धुलीपाला वेंकट धुलीपाला जैसे books पढ़ के कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है. You have to read Muhammad Habib to really understand what was going on. Muhammad Habib, who excavated the past, quote, not to fuel sectarian or communitarian differences in the present, but to assert a historically sound vision of Indic Muslim. What the is Indian Muslim past? Sound vision of Indic Muslim past. What is Indic Muslim past? Someone explain to me. Sound vision of Indic Muslim past to counter the British take of India's history. So Muhammad Habib created this narrative, which was carried on by his son Irfan Habib, which is carried on by Romila Thapar and every other Marxist historian. And Asif is saying, this history is nicer, this history is better. This history does not get into contradictions, confrontations between these two communities. Because let's just ignore the confrontations. Let's just ignore the genocides happen. Let's just ignore riots happen. And when riots happen, let's blame it on poverty and education. When retaliation happens, then say there was blame to be shared on both sides. That is the Muhammad Habib line of thinking. And Asif is saying that one is better. Indic Muslim past. This is again rather astonishing for Asif, because Asif blanks out Marxist interpretations of medieval history that informed the Muslim mass contact program of the Congress Party, conducted by communists like K.M. Ashraf, Sajjad Zahir and Z.A. Ahmed under Nehru's direction. I have examined this program in detail in chapter 2 of my book and also showed how it failed miserably when confronted by the Muslim League's campaign that decried the MMCP's subordination, that is the mass contact program, subordination of religion to Marxist class analysis. Dhulipala has pointed out in his book that Muslim League's campaign tried to point out to Muslims that, see, ye Congress wale, they are saying Marxism is better than Islam. So that was Muslim League's direct confrontation with Congress. Indic Muslim, yeah. Okay, let's read some comments again. Rohan Chhatra. Only way I see West Bengal is going to develop the day Bengali Hindus create their own Hindutva political party which will work for West Bengal's development and Bengali Hindu interest. Yeah, some counter to hona hai. So yeah, we need funds, etc. A lot of things. Some people need to give a lot of time other than their jobs, etc. Some counterbalance needs to happen to BJP so that BJP is pushed further right. Abhay Agarwal. If BJP places complete faith on Shubhendu and gives him the responsibility, I am sure he will deliver. Yeah, and so far he is delivering. I am just not. I can't just trust him. That is my problem. I am of the opinion that someday he might destroy this entire thing that is happening. He just has followers. He is not a Hindutva guy. He has followers who believe in his personality. Okay, his personality is what is going on. What is pulling the crowds. The day he decides his personality is appreciated somewhere else better, he will leave with all those people. So Shravya is saying they should feel afraid speaking about the Indic Muslim past because that past is filled with the blood of Hindus. Yes, Indic Muslim. This is the nice term of the day. Okay, let me just tell you what's the schedule for my live streams every day from now on. Okay, except Sunday nights, I will do live streams every day. So I have written this down on my Almira here. Monday nights we will do Manusmriti. Tuesday nights we will do Brahma Puran. Wednesday nights we will either discuss a paper, depending on if we are discussing a paper and some of it is still remaining to be discussed. If we have not finished it in the previous day or previous week, then we will do a poll the previous day, that is on the Brahma Puran day, and we will decide whether on Wednesday night we will discuss a paper from JSTOR, or I'm starting a new thing. We will discuss the book History of Indian Philosophy. It's by Dr. Surendranath Dasgupta, written in about I think 1886 or some. No, he was born in 1886. He died in 1952. So it was written way back in the 1900s, early 1900s or late 1800s, sometime like that. He did a PhD from Cambridge. So I'm going to do a discussion of that. That's going to be huge. It used to be a huge five volume set. And now it has been condensed into 3 volumes and released in a new fashion, and with absolutely beautiful illustration by a publisher from Delhi called Hindi Sahitya something, or Hindi Kitab, Hindi Pustak, something like that. It's in English only. But I don't have the money to buy it right now. If you guys donate something to my GPay link given below, UPI link given below, I can buy that book immediately and start discussing it from next Wednesday. Otherwise, I'm going to have to read it from, it's on archives, etc. Archives, Indian government's website as well. But I like to hold a book and then read. So on Wednesdays, either we will discuss a paper or that. Thursdays, we will definitely discuss papers only. And I will do polls discussing whichever paper you guys want me to discuss or want us to discuss. You all will find out papers on your own from JSTOR and put it on the community tab. I will do a link of the community tab and then discuss which paper we should discuss on Thursday, because let's keep it as academically sound as possible, so that we only deal in absolutely concrete notions, facts, etc. So that no stupid nuclear bomb was in Mahabharata things come into our discussions. Okay, Abhay, I'll answer your question. Thursday's paper, Friday night also we will discuss history of Indian philosophy. Saturday nights we will discuss Arthashastra, and along with that question answers as well. Okay. So Abhay is saying, why will he do that? What is his incentive? Incentive is whatever incentive someone else gives. Right now he has the incentive to remain in BJP. That is what I'm saying. Just then ye incentive chala gaya, he will leave. I don't think incentive will get Dilip Ghosh out of BJP. I don't think incentive will get Shukanto Majumdar or Tarunjyoti Tiwari out of BJP. I don't think incentive will get Yogi Adityanath out of BJP. That is the difference, okay? But I think incentive will pull Shubhendu Adhikari out of BJP. Abhay, exactly what I'm trying to say. Shubhendu has no loyalty towards any ideology. People support him because of his personality. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Indic Muslim say Marxist history is better. That is what Asif is saying. Asif's plea is not for so-called unbiased histories, but for political correctness. Oh my God, Dhulipala is bringing out the Giga Chad in him. Dhulipala is now being very. Dhulipala is essentially now trolling Asif. Asif is not asking for unbiased histories, he is asking for political correctness. This is what Dhulipala is saying. He believes that ideologically correct histories will reinforce and promote solidarity among Indians. This is the Shashi Tharoor line of thinking. Ironically, such calls only undermine claims by left-wing historians that their writing is so-called unbiased and scientific, unlike that of their Sangh Parivar opponents. Textbooks, my God, what is Dhulipala writing? This guy is the history professor in South Carolina University. See, such credentialed guys are on our side, are on the Indic side. Left-wing historians say that their writing is unbiased and scientific. But now Asif is saying that follow left-wing historians because they are biased, So don't care about unbiasedness, care about political correctness. That is what Asif is saying about Marxist historians. But Marxist historians are saying that no, our works are just unbiased. There's no political correctness or anything. So, supporter of Marxist history is saying something else about Marxist historians, which Marxist historians claim the opposite of that themselves. Textbooks by scholars with left leanings have indeed been used in schools and colleges in India for many decades, at least since the late 60s. Read. Can you believe what he's saying? This is not some BJP supporter saying. This is not Sanjay Dixit saying. This is not a advocate of the Supreme Court saying. This is as credentialed as possible. This is a credentialed historian with a PhD from Minnesota University and currently a professor in South Carolina University. He is saying this. This is as credentialed as it can get. Textbooks by scholars with left leanings have indeed been used in schools and colleges in India for many decades, at least since the late 60s. It is only recently they have been challenged, especially in the social media, and accused of whitewashing the past. First to build a united front of India's communities against the Raj, and later to fortify the ideological basis of Indian secularism. This has led to an acknowledgement that portrayals of Indian pasts as shining examples of syncretic coexistence, which is the Ganga Jamuni, or economic explanations for temple destruction. Economic explanations for temple destruction. This is the bread and butter of Romila Thapar and Audrey Truschke. Dhulipala is destroying these arguments. Economic explanations for temple destruction, like the one provided by Habib and other Marxists, are inadequate. Can you believe this guy? Quote this, post this as a meme everywhere. This is a credentialed historian saying this. We don't have to rely on J. Sai Deepak, Sanjay Dixit, these people for these things. Even Vikram Sampath, he does not have a PhD in history. That's why I have a hard time defending his arguments with leftists. Leftists love credentials. Everything is about credentials with them. They don't argue on face value. You tell them a dog is a dog. It has 4 legs. They will first tell you, what are your credentials? Are you a biologist? How do you know these are legs? But see here, this is as credentialed as it gets. This guy is saying that economic explanations for temple destructions, like the one provided by Habib and other Marxists, are inadequate, and we need to come up with explanations that also sensitively discuss the violence in medieval Indian past. Conclusion. Creating a New Medina, his book, tried to go beyond the pull of ideologically correct histories. Not surprisingly, it has met with some resistance among some sections in India and Pakistan, especially in the community of historians. This is not surprising, since previous certitudes, which were comforting for many reasons, now seem to be in peril. जो comfort था वो चला गया है. जो comfortably बोलते फिरते थे उल्टा पुल्टा. Jinnah was a secular guy who wanted a secular Pakistan. Hindu-Muslim friendship always existed until the British divided us. All those lies are now seem to be in peril. For liberal Pakistani historians, the figure of a secular Jinnah was a critical bulwark, an important pillar from where they could push back against the rising tide of Islamism in Pakistan. Jinnah, combining with a putatively retrograde ulema, he's utilizing anti-modern or non-modern religious metaphors to drum up support for Pakistan. He's deploying the rhetoric of war and hostage population theory, or demanding transfers of population, or indeed the common political vocabulary combining ideas of Islamic nationhood and modern state that the ulema, which the ulema and the Muslim League leadership used during the struggle for Pakistan's creation. This line of inquiry punctures the earlier neat storyline and causes a crisis among them. They see it empowering Islamic parties and radicals and providing legitimacy to their agenda of establishing an Islamic state in Pakistan. In India, one of the book's principal arguments that there was a sophisticated, wide-ranging and intensive debate on the meaning and implications of Pakistan in the public sphere, and that consequently it did not remain a vague idea in the public mind, causes a similar disquiet. So he's saying now the opposition in India that has happened to his book, he's discussing that. The apprehension is that the new argument may be used to further paint Muslims as fifth columnists in India by the votaries of Hindutva. See here, Dhulipala is such a gigantic Chad and he trolls people, I had no idea. He's saying that ये लोग जो हम मेरे बुक के खिलाफ बोल रहे हैं, दे आर सेइंग दैट नहीं नहीं ऐसे ऐसे मत लिखो, तुम्हारा आर्ग्यूमेंट तो कोई हिंदुत्व वाला यूज कर देगा, सो डोंट राइट ट्रूथ जस्ट बिकॉज सम पीपल विल यूज द ट्रूथ टू फर्दर देयर आइडियाज. Another cause of discomfort with the book is because of how it shows Ambedkar using unflattering stereotypes in his assessment of Indian Muslims and their politics. So guys, आजकल जो हम अम्बेडकर के ये 1946 वाला बुक इतना डिस्कस करते हैं, that is because of Dhulipala, okay? Dhulipala brought back this book in the mainstream discussion. This is absolutely the credit to Dhulipala himself for his research, his PhD thesis paper which he did in 2008. In 2010 paper he elaborated on that paper. Then the 2015 was the final elaboration of his 2008 PhD paper, and that brought back in the public psyche about that Ambedkar has written such a book in 1946. Everyone in India had conveniently forgotten, and the Marxists who has read that book wanted everyone else to forget that book. They just want you to remember that Ambedkar wrote against Hinduism in 1935. They don't want you to remember or know what Ambedkar wrote in 1946. So that is why they are pissed off with Dhulipala, that ये क्यों अम्बेडकर को का बुक सबके दिमाग में फिर से क्यों काहे डाल दिया. Another cause of discomfort with the book is because of how it shows Ambedkar using unflattering stereotypes in his assessment of Indian Muslims and their politics, as also advocating partition using arguments that seem startlingly akin to those of a Hindu conservative realist. This is a credentialed historian saying that Ambedkar sounds like a Hindu conservative realist, okay? Remember this line. Another section might be dissatisfied since Nehru does not come off badly and does not get blamed for the partition in the book. Yeah, Dhulipala does not even blame Nehru 100%. His blame is on their side completely. Some of these, okay, let me read some comments first. Interesting discussion going on. Abhay is saying BJP needs to retain Shubhendu Adhikari in every way possible. He is the only hope. To a large extent, yes, he is the only hope because he has such a gigantic mass connection. I don't see any hope from present Bengali BJP leadership. I see only hope from Dilip Ghosh, not Sukanta Majumdar so much, and Tarun Jyoti Tiwari is doing a great job. If he stays, that is, if Shubhendu Adhikari stays in BJP, he will be extremely pro-Hindutva. In policies, yes. In mind, not so much. This loyalty to ideology was a major concern, WRT, with Himanta Biswa Sharma as well. Yeah. Himanta also came to BJP because Congress ill treatment and not because of his ideology. Right. But remember, he did not have scams behind him, which is a major motivating factor in this case. There must be another Hindutva party to keep BJP in check. Yeah, there has to be something to offset, a check and balance needs to happen. Right now, BJP is doing fully, ye rasta kharab hai, etc. No Hindutva conversations in their arguments. To keep BJP in check, because BJP wants to be flag bearer of Hindutva. They don't want other Hindutva party to arise. Yes, I agree. A Hindutva party is needed to pull BJP more towards the right. Arey, sab kaam hum log kyun kare? What is Vishwa Hindu Parishad doing? This is their job, exactly what you are saying. A lot of people ask me in inboxes saying, what should we do? Should we go do processions on this topic, etc. All this is a job of politicians. They are literally called politicians. This is politics. What you guys are discussing and suggesting, why should we do it? We can at best speak out against these things as much as possible. We are having an intellectual discussion here. तो रास्ते में जाके स्ट्रीट पावर तुमने काहे के लिए किसके लिए बना के रखा है? स्ट्रीट पावर इसमें यूज नहीं करोगे तो why should we do it? We can only speak for themselves. अगर कोई ना करे तब कभी ना कभी तो हमको करना ही होगा. क्या करें? मगर why isn't Vishwa Hindu Parishad pushing BJP further right? Yes, I agree. A Hindutva party, Vishwa Hindu Parishad is a Hindutva party. A Hindutva party is needed to pull BJP more towards the right, both culturally and economically. This is the exact reason why I want Bengali Hindus to create their own Hindutva party, which will have the power to challenge BJP on Hindutva narrative. Yeah, so again saying that VHP, this is VHP's job, what you are exactly recommending. And BJP has completely emasculated VHP. I don't know how they will emasculate VHP. I think people who are ambitious in VHP, they left VHP and joined BJP. That's as much as the evilness of BJP in this case, right? So whatever manpower remains with VHP, why aren't they pushing BJP further? Why aren't they coming out on the streets and saying that BJP is not doing enough? Why can't they do that? That is how BJP will shift further right. Okay, last paragraph I guess of this conclusion. Some of these apprehensions क्या क्या था कि don't bring up Ambedkar, don't bring out the truths, etc. Some of these apprehensions seem overblown and unnecessary. After all, my book Creating a New Medina was not an argument about the innate enmity between Hindus and Muslims or a normative argument for Muslim separatism, as I have underlined both in my book and at different places in this essay. By foregrounding, by first setting the premise that popular understanding of, by setting the premise of the popular understanding of Pakistan, my book instead took seriously, what did it take seriously? The aspirations of a community that do not neatly fit with the desire for secular political beginnings. It also his book highlighted the ulama as actors in the partition story, whether they espoused Pakistan or opposed it. That the ulama did play a role in the Pakistan conversation. That is his argument, Dhulipala's argument. The book also did not try to replace a secular jinnah with a religious jinnah. Rather, it sought to complicate our understanding of his persona in a way that takes seriously his engagement with and mobilization of Islam, rather than reducing it to a strategic ruse. सिर्फ strategically use किया था, ये सब गलत है. It is, he actually engaged with Islam properly. It is those who essentialize Jinnah as an arch secularist who rob him of his complexity. जो लोग बोल रहे हैं कि secular सिर्फ जिन्ना सिर्फ secular है, खत्म बात. They are reducing his complexity. He is a much more dynamic person. My book, the same with Ambedkar. People who say that Ambedkar just hated Hindus and was against casteism. That is the beginning and end of Ambedkar. उसने और जिंदगी में कुछ लिखा नहीं है, कुछ काम नहीं किया है. सिर्फ हिंदुओं को गाली दो, यही अम्बेडकर का जिंदगी है. My book tried to bring out similar complexities in Ambedkar and other political figures who were important in shaping the history of the times, something which is necessary in an era where leaders have been reduced to icons on the wall to be worshipped unquestioningly. It is perhaps for these reasons that scholars in other fields such as religious studies and political science have been far more hospitable and receptive to my book's arguments. This is not surprising since so political science and religious studies people have liked his book Creating a New Medina, but historians have not liked his history work because they are saying नहीं हम लोग कितना अच्छा झूठा हिस्ट्री बना रहे थे इतने दिन, इसको अभी ये बुक आके हमारा खाना पीना बंद कर देगा. It is perhaps for these reasons that scholars in other fields such as religious studies and political science have been far more hospitable and receptive to my book's arguments. This is not surprising since an important strand of scholarship in religious studies has called into question the claims and universality of secularism and does not necessarily see it as an antiseptic against religious fundamentalism. Did you hear what he said? A fully credentialed historian with a PhD is saying that American University ka PhD is saying that there is a need to question the validity of secularism as an antiseptic against religious fundamentalism. Secularism is not the solution to religious fundamentalism. Good fundamentals are the solution to religious fundamentalism. In any case, much as this essay tries to address various questions and issues raised about my book, the partition remains a sensitive topic and will continue to be debated with persistence, passion, and zest. However, for the debate to be productive, it needs to be conducted with civility and on the basis of rigorous new historiographical research to enable further dialogue. This research needs to be presented in clear prose so as to include not just scholars but as large a community of people as possible in the spirit of democratic debate. Falsification based on half-truths, lies and distortions, exaggerated speculation, turgid prose that obscures issues, and immoderate speech will only contribute to the ideologically charged climate of the times. Reiterating politically correct certitudes or fashioning ideologically correct histories will not help either. Okay, let's read some comments again. Okay, so this paper is over. We still have some time. maybe we'll find out another paper to discuss. Okay. First, let's check out some of the comments. Also, how does it matter if Shubhendu has a scam behind him? He stays in BJP. He has no fear. I'm saying that it matters because any day that fear might go away. Something might happen, and that fear goes away, and he goes to that side. You must find out what BJP did to Pravin Togadia, VHP in Gujarat. Yeah. Pravin Togadia case, I know. Their BJP very, very, very convincingly, very deliberately demolished VHP. But it matters because if he becomes CM, and then it'll always be used by oppositions against him to defame BJP. Right, absolutely. Remember, Mamta before becoming CM had no track record of involving in any scam. Yeah, and also Shubhendu Adhikari, I don't want him to become CM. He is good for mobilization. My CM candidate is Shukanto Majumdar. My only fear is that it should resort to Shiv Sena kind of regional hooliganism. Bengal has always been susceptible to regionalism. Yeah. Modi had been attacked for Gujarat riots for 20 years. He became the PM. Yogi too had a shady past behind him. Yes, but those were all pro-Hindutva things. Shubhendu Adhikari's, the accusation against Shubhendu Adhikari about doing something bad is not even a very pro-Hindu thing. And after all, remember that there are actually people who have been the victims of these scams. They still remember Shubhendu Adhikari. Okay, now the most numbers of people are joining. The highest is after we have finished the paper. Nice. We will start discussing another paper today. We'll find out at least what paper we can discuss. Let's see what are the nice papers in JSTOR. I think I have some made a list of the papers I want to pursue. Let's check it out. I had recently posted an article by Shashi Tharoor on civilization state concept on the Discord server. Maybe you can review that. Okay. वो यहाँ पे लिंक डाल सकते हो क्या? And posted an article by Shashi Tharoor on civilization state. Discord देखते हैं यहाँ से खुलता है कि नहीं. अभी डिस्कॉर्ड अपडेट हो रहा है. Read Lala Lajpat Rai view on Hindu nationalism. Where can I find it? Lala Lajpat Rai on Hindu nationalism. Is it in a book form or an article form? Okay, I have disagreements with you on Shubhendu Adhikari. Anyway, nice debate. Yeah. The inclusive nationalist, sensitive to Hindu interests. Lala Lajpat Rai championed diversity in unity. In recent years, champions of Hindutva have claimed Lala Lajpat Rai. अरे ये पहली बार खोल रहा हूँ, ऐसे हो रहा है. Civilizational states. This is the one, right? This looks interesting. Civilization states are profoundly illiberal. Is this written by Shashi Tharoor? The notion that they can follow their own standards overlooks the need for universally accepted norms to sustain world order. Acha, this can be tied up with the decoloniality conversation as well. This is what probably Kushal Mehra would agree with Shashi Tharoor in this case. Nice, this is an interesting article. When is it written? February 2. Okay, thanks for suggesting this. And some other day when we have like this finished an article, I'm talking to you. Who recommended? Yeah, nihilist. I'm talking to you right now. I'm saying that today we are not doing the Lala Lajpat Rai article then. Send me a link, or if some other day we have time but we finish a paper randomly, then we will get to such an article. Okay. The Study of Hindu Nationalism by Lalaji. Is it like in a PDF form somewhere, or in archives or something? Okay, let's check this out. Dr. Shashi Tharoor talking about, I'll have to change the thumbnail also. How big is it? It's not that big. The economic and technological convergence of globalization did not lead to a singular cosmopolitan order, but to a great divergence, in which prospering emergent nations, most notably China, once again attained the wherewithal to chart a path forward based on their own civilizational foundations. Economic and technological strength engenders, not extinguishes, cultural and political self-assertion. Okay, it starts off with something wrong. This is not true. Dr. Shashi Tharoor is wrong in this. And it's not wrong because in theory, it's correct in theory what Dr. Shashi Tharoor is saying. It's wrong in practice. It ends up being wrong in practice, as we have seen from our case. Economic and technological factors has not strengthened India's cultural assertions. Political self-assertion has been strengthened because of economics and technology. But what is the political assertion based on? India's political assertion was there was no assertion, even though there was technological and economic advancement, because there was no cultural identity intact. Okay, cultural identity was not intact because we were not having these civilizational state conversations. So what Shashi Tharoor is saying, that टेक्नोलॉजी और इकोनॉमी होगा तो कल्चरल असर्शन हो जाएगा, दैट इज़ नॉट द केस. कल्चरल आइडेंटिटी के लिए पूरा अलग से एक अलग डिस्कोर्स होना है. उससे कल्चरल आइडेंटिटी स्ट्रांग होगा, उससे ही कल्चरल सेल्फ असर्शन होगा, उससे ही नेशनल पॉलिटिकल सेल्फ असर्शन भी होगा. सेल्फ असर्शन इज बेस्ड ऑन समथिंग, दैट थिंग इज कल्चर, कल्चरल आइडेंटिटी. Okay, this is abstract, I guess. This development has led Bruno Mars to argue we are seeing the return of civilization states, such as Vladimir Putin's Russia and Xi Jinping's China. Xi Jinping's China is, as a civilization state is pretty unfortunate. China's civilization was so strong and historic. Now it's a communist civilization state. These are pushing back against the universalist claims of a liberal world order, which now it seems to be going on kind of in India as well. Not hardly though, because we are still having fair elections. In this series, we asked several thinkers to assess Massey's arguments. Nathan Gardell's okay, this is not even written by Shashi Tharoor. This is written by some random guy. Nathan Gardell's Noema, editor-in-chief. He's the editor-in-chief of this paper, this news portal or something. We detached, Abhay is saying we detached our cultural rootedness from our advanced education. Yes, exactly. Cultural identity होता अगर, and उसके साथ ये 1991 का liberalization होता economic, तब जाके आप देखते कि क्या होने वाला. Whatever we are going to see in the next 10 years should have happened, could have happened if we started these things in 1991. In 1991, we only brought a little bit of capitalism and absolutely no cultural identity. Now we have cultural identity and strong capitalism. अब देखो दुनिया में क्या होता है, बवाल मचता है. बवाल तो नहीं मचाएंगे, हम तो ऐसे ही डोनेशन देते फिरेंगे, हम तो अच्छे लोग हैं. बट आई थिंक मिलिट्री बेसेस इन पाकिस्तान इज अ नेसेसिटी, पाकिस्तान एंड बांग्लादेश. Okay, now Dr. Shashi Tharoor writes, my friend Bruno Mars is an important thinker. Oh, it's not a random guy. Oh, Bruno Mars is an important thinker, one of the rare breed of public intellectuals who has actually served in the world of politics. How about we do this in Shashi Tharoor's accent? No, it will be too stupid. What he says always deserves close attention. His thesis on the return of civilizations is, however, flawed and requires challenge. Let's see what is the challenge to civilizational state. Great article recommended by Niner. What's your real name, man? On the core proposition of a central divergence between the idea of liberal universalism and the particularisms of individual civilizations, one cannot disagree. अरे मेरा मच्छर कब खत्म होगा जिंदगी में? Civilizations rest on an overarching framework for social and political life, subsuming elements of religion, ethnicity, and language, while liberalism seeks to transcend such elements in claiming universal applicability for its values and principles, which is the stupidest thing ever invented. But where Machias's reasoning gets fuzzy is in his insistence that identity and civilization are distinct. Thus, to him, Ukraine and Russia are not the same civilization, despite Orthodox Christianity. Caucasian ethnicity and similar, if not overlapping, languages. Both nations are slowly gravitating to their own civilizational worlds, he argues, rooted in widely divergent histories and feelings and culminating in different political theories. This is such a beautiful tattva given by Masses. To me, to Dr. Shashi Tharoor, these seem to be classic cases of differences in national identity within the same broad civilization. To Bruno, these are civilizational differences. Exactly, they are civilizational differences. But nowhere does he explain why, preferring averment to argument. Dismissing notions of national identity as, quote, the mutilated corpse of a civilization, end quote, has an epigrammatic ring to it, but is hardly a useful analytical tool. Okay, Shashi Tharoor is pissed off because his friend Machias used the phrase that national identity, nation-state wala identity, is a mutilated corpse of a civilization. Shashi Tharoor is saying this is a nice flowery language, उसमें depth वाला कुछ है नहीं. But okay, India as a nation state, India's identity, is it a mutilated corpse of the Hindu civilization? It could be said in some senses, right? Abhay is saying, still I would say that with economic development, self-confidence builds. This has led to more cultural assertion in recent times. Without economics तो नहीं होगा, but is it? I'm saying that without economics, wouldn't it have happened anyway? If we were poor, wouldn't it have happened anyway? I'm saying that the time was going to come anyway. People were going to research and etc. But I wonder, yeah, you might be right, because if entire nation was poor, as in the case of pre-1991, because see, pre-1991 India is such an anomaly that it's so entirely stupid that it's hard to discuss those things and imagine that what we might have done. Maybe there would be a civil war or something because people were so poor, and then actual communist dictatorship would have come to power if 1991 things had gone on. In 1991, we had the same condition as India's. Our foreign exchange reserves were down to the dogs, etc. It is not adequately though. Yeah. To me, they seem to be classic cases of differences in national identity within the same broad civilization. Okay. The distinction becomes even more unclear the more he attempts to delineate it. Civilization, he writes, needs to be distinguished from any notion of religious, ethnic or national identity. Yes, it's a consciousness. This is nice. This guy, we need to read more of this Machias guy now. Someone Google Machias though. Let's see if we can find out who he is. Okay, Nenar is saying, we should have aimed at economic self-reliance to preserve cultural structures like Japan. Yes, in 1991 that's what happened. But economic self-reliance तो नहीं है, economic improvement हुआ, but without any cultural identity. But those needs to be distinguished from any civilization needs to be distinguished from any notion of religious, ethnic or national identity. But now Shashi Tharoor writes, but those are precisely the elements on which civilizations are constructed. Yes, they are constructed on that, but something is constructed on that. So that thing which is constructed on these things is not the same as these things. This is the final conclusion of these things on which they are constructed. So Dr. Shashi Tharoor is wrong here. The definition of civilization as, quote, an exercise in political reason, the effort to organize collective life around principles, end quote, completely elides the more fundamental distinction that I make in my book, The Battle of Belonging, between identity, which rests on such immutable factors as religion, ethnicity and language, and liberal civic structures based on constitutions and institutions, which have nothing to do with quote-unquote civilization as such, but which permit entry to all who adhere to the principles embedded in them. Yeah, see, this is the difference between a post-colonial thinker and a decolonial thinker. Machias person, this guy seems to have a decolonial mind. Bruno. Abhay is saying, our idea of economic development must be linked to cultural development. Yes. So, Shashi Tharoor writes, Bruno is right when he writes, quote, what distinguishes a civilization state is its ability to provide an overarching framework for social and political life and therefore a viable or plausible alternative to the liberalism of the West. The problem that he overlooks is what that overarching framework is built on. Overarching framework for us is dharma, elements deriving from birth and geography that individuals cannot change. Shashi Tharoor can't get beyond the racial nature of right wing politics. Identity politics, which derives often from civilizational and cultural factors, remains ineluctably opposed to liberalism. Fine. This is why identity politics, which derives from civilizational and cultural factors, remains ineluctably opposed to liberalism. Bruno says that, quote, states thus understood might well have a territory and a people, but their center of gravity would lie in the way of life embodied in the state. The illusion of a homogeneous people inhabiting an ancestral land is not part of the logic of a civilizational state. Beautiful. I'm sorry, dear friend, Shashi Tharoor writes, but simply saying it doesn't make it so. It is the case in India as well. Why don't, Shashi Tharoor, you explain why is it not the case? The logic of civilization is indeed precisely that, and all the existing and would-be so-called civilizational states, he identifies China, Russia, India, Israel, are predicated on precisely that logic. In India, indeed, the struggle for the country's soul is between those who celebrate India's diversity and wish to preserve an idea of nationhood based on civic nationalism, and those who, in the name of civilization, seek to elide that diversity, promoting a uniformity based on the millennial legacies of Hinduism. Okay. Shashi Tharoor is so wrong again. The first line that he says about people wanting civilization states in India, about people not wanting the civilization state in India, that line also applies for people who want a civilization state in India. See, celebrate India's diversity. Yes, we want to celebrate India's diversity. And we wish to preserve an idea of nationhood based on civic nationalism. Yes, civic nationalism also, which is based on civilizational civilizationalism. But remember this phrase, that framework, the logic of framework. Wait, where did that term go? Check out this term. The overarching thing. Okay, ये जो overarching system है जिसके अंदर diversity होगा, वो framework तो किसी को बचाना है. वासुदेव कुटुंबम लोग बोलते फिरेंगे, वो लोग जो बोलेंगे वासुदेव कुटुंबम, is it कुटुंबम? I'm probably saying it wrong. वो लोग ही अगर जिंदा ना रहे, वो बोलने वाले लोग ही ना रहे, तो ये डाइवर्सिटी होगा कहाँ से? ये डाइवर्सिटी है because of Hindus and because it is a Hindu civilization. Those who in the name of civilization seek to elide that diversity, promoting a uniformity based on the millennial legacies of Hinduism. So yeah, there is an uniformity because it's a framework after all. A framework means there's a frame. Okay, it's not random happenings in the ether. There is a framework inside which people play, rules to the game. So you need rules, and that does not have to mean uniformity. If you want to call it uniformity, go ahead. But inside that uniformity, there is plenty of room for having your own voice. There has to be, because it's Hinduism. To add to the confusion, Bruno acknowledges that, quote, liberalism was conceived as an alternative to the civilization state, in which politics was permanently rooted in an exclusive or particular outlook. Liberalism denounced life in a civilization state as a constricted and impoverished. After all, if the state is organized around a certain outlook, it must exclude every possible alternative. Yeah. Liberals dreamed of a different kind of state, one admitting of endless possibilities. Yes, this Bruno guy seems to be absolutely right. This is a very decolonial outlook. Liberalism ने कहा कि life in a civilization state is so constricted and so impoverished. Liberal country बनाओ, देखो क्या क्या अच्छा चीज़ें होता है. Okay, let's read some comments. Connecting our daily habits like language, dressing, eating, music, dancing must be a part of modern Indian economy. Yes. Bruno Marchais is a Portuguese politician, consultant and author. He is a senior advisor at Flint Global, former Secretary of State for European Affairs in Portugal, and a columnist for the New Statesman. Nice. Why Hindi speakers from Indic side are not good as left side? Sanjay Dixit है, Ajit Bharti है, from Indic side are, I think the better question is, why aren't the English speakers on Indic side so few in numbers and not as good as leftists? इंग्लिश में डिस्ट्रॉय कर देने वाले लोग हमारे पास ज़्यादा नहीं है. डिबेट करने वाले घटिया डिबेट करेंगे, मगर एटलीस्ट फ्लावरी लैंग्वेज में बोलने वाले लोगों का संख्या बहुत ज़्यादा है इंग्लिश साइड में, on the left side. But in the Indic wing, we have actually more Hindi speakers who are absolutely phenomenal debaters. They don't have YouTube channels and stuff, but that's why we may not know of them much. But if you follow these people, Sanjay Dikshit, Tufel Chaturvedi, etc., they bring on guests, so many people. They are all phenomenal Hindi debaters. Same old wine in old bottle by Shashi Tharoor. Yeah. Nihilist is saying, I am reading his Era of Darkness book in right now. Nice. It's good, but the chapter on Hindu-Muslim relation is what you would expect from him. So much denialism and negationism. Yeah, but and now, as we have learned from Dhulipala and even Shashi Tharoor's debate with Vikram Sampath in India Today conclave, that now it's not a mystery. Now it's not the case. We don't have to imagine that. I think they have not read enough, or they are mistaking, they are misunderstanding, they are misrepresenting by mistake. No. This is a conscious decision to deny Hindu-Muslim conflicts, okay? They have consciously done this in order to modernize India, so-called modernize India, or to create a nation-building process where imaginary friendships and homogeneity leads to solidarity, etc. This is their declared position. This is not a mistake. This is very consciously Shashi Tharoor has done all those denialism and negationism what you're reading in his book. Did we read this part? Liberals dreamed of a different kind of state, one admitting of endless possibilities. That is precisely why, now Tharoor himself comments on it, that is precisely why liberal states permit multiple parties, ethnicities. Yes, permit तो, अरे multiple parties कहाँ नहीं था civilization state में? Parties का concept नहीं था तो multiple parties कहाँ से आएगा? That's like saying, why is the dog such a bad classical singer? Why are dogs such a bad singers in classical music? अरे singing ही नहीं आता वो classical music कैसे गाएगा कुत्ता? So this is the Shashi Tharoor's argument essentially, that there are so many parties in a nation state. There were no enough parties in a civilization state. तो राजा को लोग हटा नहीं देते थे, different parties मिलके, different लोग conspiracy करके. तो एक political party नाम होना है, तभी जाके different parties find a voice. Again, this is a colonial way of thinking that you need people at the top who to educate and mobilize masses. Masses सब गधे हैं. Ganga Jamani Tehzeeb. Sanjay Dikshit or Tufel Chaturvedi make emotional arguments, no strategic thinking or framework. I disagree with you here. I can agree with you in case of Tufel Chaturvedi, but not Sanjay Dikshit. He has some. He does engage in a lot of rhetoric. I think he finds it funny, and he does it deliberately to stir up emotions and so that people get charged up and do something about it or donate to causes, etc. थोड़ा emotion तो ज़रूरी है. Otherwise, his channel would also have 200-300 views like mine. सिर्फ academic होने से नहीं चलेगा. कुशल मेहरा को देखिए. कुशल मेहरा कितने दिन से 40,000-45,000 सब्सक्राइबर लेके बैठा है, because that's a purely academic channel almost. Look at Sangam Talks even. It's a purely academic channel. कितने लोग देखते हैं? संजय दीक्षित का 8,63,000 सब्सक्राइबर है इसीलिए. तो वो एलिमेंट तो है ही, इमोशन का एलिमेंट तो रहेगा ही. But there is plenty of academic rigor to his research and to his conclusions. At least Hindi is building something. Tell about other languages. They are high on GJT, right? Yeah, I was thinking about this. In 21st February is Mother Tongue Day internationally, right? Because of the Bengali Bangladeshi Muslim Bangladeshi struggle for their language identity, etc., which is a lie. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman just wanted power for himself. He was tired of living under the Pakistani thumb. But as a celebration of that, Bengali leftists in West Bengal, in Kolkata, they have these NGOs to outreach to tribes who speak different other languages, etc. They published books in their languages and gave them, handed out to them. This is also a missed opportunity on BJP's side. See, BJP has no innovations and creativity. All of their thing is focused on, all of their campaign is focused on just saying bad roads and bad corruption. Vote for us. We will do good roads and no corruption, which is absolutely stupid to say, because there's a huge political gunda and corruption करने वाला class in West Bengal now. who have been born in these families of political gundas and have sustained and have grown up themselves to become political gundas etc. because of 40 years of no jobs. Okay, तो ये क्लास जाएगा कहाँ? ये क्लास जब तक मरेगा नहीं, रिटायर नहीं कर जाएगा गुंडागर्दी से, तब तक गुंडा रहेंगे. ये सब लोग बीजेपी में ही आने वाले हैं. इफ बीजेपी हैज़ टू कम टू पावर, दे विल कम टू पावर विथ ऑल द पॉलिटिकल गुंडाज एंड करप्ट पीपल ऑफ तृणमूल. नहीं तो कहाँ से आसमान से टपकेगा तो नहीं नया नया अच्छे अच्छे लोग. तो आई एम सेइंग एटलीस्ट इट विल टेक वन जनरेशन इज 25 years. इट विल टेक बीजेपी एटलीस्ट 15 to 20 years to completely rid the state of corruption and bad roads etc. बीजेपी को चूतियों के साथ ही काम करना है बंगाल में. ये बीजेपी क्यों बोलते फिर रहा है मुझे पता नहीं है. इट्स एन एब्सोल्यूट लाई. Within 1 year of their coming to power, people will say that you are doing the same things as Trinamool. Yes, that will happen because the people who are running the ground level thing operations, they are the same as Trinamool. And that is why not much difference happened when Trinamool came to power after CPM, because those same people who were CPM supporters, workers, they came to Trinamool. Now they will come to BJP. क्या डिफरेंस होगा? लोग तो सेम है, दिमाग में कचरा सेम ही है. तो एनीवे, आई फॉरगॉट व्हाट वाज माय पॉइंट. Precisely while liberal states permit multiple parties. Okay, wait, let me remember what I was talking about. Hindi is building something. Yeah. So I was saying that BJP should have done this outreach program to tribals and gave them good Indic concept wala books, right? In their languages, because imagine what the leftists are giving them. What books are they giving to these tribals? That you were Adivasis, you were oppressed by Aryans, इस ब्राह्मण ने ये किया, इस राजा ने तुम लोगों की ऐसे मारा था. ये सभी तो बोलेगा. उस बुक्स में है क्या? ये मटेरियल Bengali NGOs, leftist NGOs are going around giving to Adivasis, and BJP is going around telling people you have bad roads, vote for us. Okay. Let's see थोड़ा बहुत अच्छा कमेंट्स आ रहा है. People keep telling me that इतने रात को क्यों लाइव स्ट्रीम करते हो, but I'm seeing that so many crazy people like me are all up all night. Shravya is saying, whereas the right wingers speak mostly in an aggressive manner which turns the audience off. This is very true. This is very unfortunate and very true. गुस्सा कंट्रोल में हमको करना है. Even I suck at this. Even I'm to be blamed in this case. At some point or the other I do get angry. The calmness से जो बात करने का स्किल है वो बहुत ज़रूरी है. Aniket is saying, instead Rahul Roshan in Sangam talks explained framework to build ecosystem. इसलिए हाँ उनका व्यूज़ कम ही रहेगा. व्यूज़ matters to a little extent, you know. We need more Indic speakers who speak calmly. Yeah. Shravya, very true. Yes. That's why I don't watch most of these channels. Yes. हाँ अभी तो मुझे टाइम नहीं मिल रहा है इसलिए नहीं देख रहा हूँ. Rhetoric is important along with intellect. Rhetoric is important in different contexts. Rhetoric is important for YouTube channel etc. and if you are a politician. But अगर purely academic debate हो रहा है तब ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए. अगर opposite side से सिर्फ rhetoric ही आ रहा है तो तुम भी थोड़ा बहुत rhetoric दे दो. क्या है? Humans are emotional creatures, so what's wrong with an emotional argument? We fight for our family, our people. I usually you make extremely intelligent comments, so I know this line is not the entirety of your argument. But the problem with so far what you just said in this particular sentence is that emotional arguments cannot be the only thing because it's a slippery slope. Emotional argument ही में ही कोई बोलते फिरेगा कि काफिरों को मार दो, इसके वजह से हम इतना गरीब है एट्सेट्रा. तो इमोशनल आर्ग्यूमेंट का कोई अंत नहीं है. इमोशनल आर्ग्यूमेंट हैज़ टू बी बेस्ड ऑन सम इंटेलेक्ट. तो वो आई नो यू प्रोबेबली थिंक द सेम वे, बट लेट्स जस्ट बी क्लियर अबाउट दैट. Rhetoric with intellect is mass with class, right? That's why no one can come close to what Annamalai is doing. What a genius this guy is, man. Have you seen this guy speak? Of course you have. Annamalai is the best thing that has happened to Indian politics in the last 5 years. Okay, Yogi etc. are there, but what an innovative and what a phenomenal person. For example, shamsharma 980k subscribers, hyperquest only 547k subscribers. Yeah, I like listening to Abhijit Iyer. I don't agree with everything he says, but he's kind of funny. Yes. Hindi helps mass mobilization. English is used for deeper intellectual discussion. Kushal stays very calm during discussions. Yes. Okay. Let's continue with another comment आया. Jaipur dialogues is really interesting somehow. They manage very casual and occasional academic talks at the same time, and even though they have long 1 hour talks, people still listen. Yes. अच्छे अच्छे गेस्ट आते हैं. संजय दीक्षित himself is, I think Sanjay, Jaipur dialogues is the only podcast where the host knows more than the guest on every topic, but still shuts up and listens the entire time. That is an amazing skill of Sanjay Dikshit. I don't think any guest that he brings out, except maybe Pratik Borade, maybe because Sanjay Dikshit doesn't watch movies as much. On everything else, his knowledge is actually probably more, if not at par, with whatever guest he's bringing on. He's an absolute genius. How much has he read in the last 2 years of his job? I wonder. He knows Bengali. I think he can read and write Bengali as well. Sanjay Dikshit has charm. Yeah. But yes, ek do time he's just pointlessly crude. That's also ek do episodes I have seen which were not acceptable to me. But that's it. Ek do episodes. Okay. तो civilization states में diversity नहीं है, and liberal states में multiple parties हैं, which multiple parties, ethnicities, religions, and where necessary, multiple languages to flourish, whereas civilizational states do not permit this, according to Tharoor, or seek to subordinate these multiplicities to a civilizational idea. Okay, now Dr. Shashi Tharoor is being absolutely unfair. I have never seen him being unfair in an argument. He is absolutely making stuff up here. Where is his evidence for this? That civilization, अभी भी civilization state हुआ कहाँ है? Russia में हुआ है. Russia is only being accused of being a civilization state. I don't think it's a civilization state. Russia is simply a dictatorship, a post-communist dictatorship. So is China. Civilization state कहाँ पे हो रहा है रशिया और चाइना में? Israel में भी. Israel is definitely a civilization state according to me. And even the current nation state that is called Israel has all the elements of a civilization state. I'll agree there. But even they are not that killing these diversity, etc. Ask any Muslim, is he happier in Palestine or in Israel? Ask any Muslim in the entire Middle East. Where is he happier? Why are there so many Muslims living in Israel then? I'm not talking about the occupied parts. I'm talking in core Israel, in Tel Aviv. Okay. So then where is Shashi Tharoor getting this notion of he's just making random things up, which he was accusing his friend of doing, Bruno Machaes or something. He was accusing him of just saying things and not backing them up with facts and claims. It's just a claim. Now he's doing the same thing. He's saying that civilization states don't give voices to these different ethnicities, religions, etc. They do not seek, they seek to subordinate these multiplicities to a civilizational idea, which is absolutely not the case because we don't even have enough data to make this claim. I'm not saying that Shashi Tharoor is entirely wrong. I'm saying that Shashi Tharoor does not have any evidence. Neither do I. Civilization state कहाँ पे घूम रहा है? ऐसा नहीं है कि चारों तरफ civilization state ही civilization state है. एक है, सिर्फ इजराइल है. तो कहाँ पे हो रहा है ये? And also ये रशिया में if he is arguing that रशिया में मुस्लिम्स का हालत बहुत ख़राब है, that is absolutely pure crap. I am a huge MMA fan, so Khabib is probably my favorite fighter. I used to be a fan of him as a person as well, but now he's supporting Zakir Naik as well. Now I can't support him as an Indian anymore, or as a Hindu. But Khabib, people like him, his entire family, Dagestan regions, which are Muslim regions, are very happy in Russia. Khabib proudly speaks in Russian after his fights, then speaks in Dagestani language. He has had meetings with Putin, etc. He has never ever given the impression that he is not happy in Russia as a Muslim. So Shashi Tharoor is absolutely making stuff up from his mind. Let's check out some comments again. I watch Ajit Bharti for his satire. Yeah, he is brilliant with satire, and I watch Ajit Bharti for his phenomenal Hindi as well. अभी ज़्यादा time नहीं मिलता है. Yeah, he was an IAS, so I probably think that helped him. Right. Academic rigor तो लगता है IAS वालों को. Nihilist Trader, have you read any of Meenakshi Jain's books yet? No, I have not read. Do you know if Meenakshi Jain is credible or not? Because I have seen her countless interviews, obviously, and she has some facts. But just नाम के वास्ते जो credential वाला case liberals बनाते हैं, जैसे कि no one can debate that Dhulipala is credentialed. In that sense, is Meenakshi Jain that credible or credentialed? Because I was seeing some articles pointing out how Meenakshi Jain, I don't remember what it was saying, that, but it made the case that Meenakshi Jain's books need not be taken seriously. Yeah, Sanjay Dixit can read Urdu as well, apparently. Yeah. Afin, one line of rhetoric that can be used, I use in IRL, is while we are mad that our aunts got raped and our uncles forced to bend his knees to foreign identity, you should be more mad as they are your right. Center for Indic Studies is GEM, but only 1.2 lakh, but Jaipur Dialogues is 8.89 lakh. Yeah. Fun fact, Savarkar wrote many Urdu ghazals when he was in Kalapani. Damn. Some were even sung by HSRA revolutionaries. Nice. This kind of disparity is kind of saddening. Yeah. Aniket, which disparity you are talking about? Okay, fine. 2. Mom and dad. This is the emotional argument that I was talking about. The clapback I get is, why did you not help us then? For that I have, right. I have other emotional argument. This is what I was talking about. Yeah. Yeah, Khabib made with Zakir. Yeah. If you want to avoid being rhetorical, then your analysis has to be data driven like Kushal Mehra. Yeah. Zakir might be good for us Hindus in the long run. You might disagree, but we can use his argument. Okay. Nice, interesting point. Lik dalo yahan pe. Which arguments of Zakir we can talk about. Every book of her is a must read. I see. Okay. Yeah, must read though. I have no disagreements because other people I trust are discussing so much about her books. But what about the procedure of publishing her books or something? That's, I think, on that topic I heard there are some discrepancies. I'll check out the article after we finish this. Okay, so Tharoor is saying that civilizational states are everywhere, and I have data from them that civilizational states are very bad and they don't let diversities happen. The opposite is true. According to Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Bruno then advances to say, the breathtaking proposition that, quote, the civilization state is built on ideas, not blood and soil, right? Decoloniality. The opposite is true. Dr. Shashi Tharoor again gives his point. It is the liberal state that is built on ideas, the civilization state that subordinates them to timeless verities of civilization and culture. No, absolutely wrong. The liberal state is not built on ideas. Liberal state is built on one idea. Different ideas make up a civilization state. Oh, khatam ho gaya kya? Nahi. This becomes clear in Bruno's apologia for the likely emergence of quote-unquote civilization states in India and Israel, which he rightly situates in their religious and geographical traditions. Quote, this is Bruno saying, here there is no reason why the Jewish tradition should be made to fit within liberalism rather than the other way around. After all, Judaism is thousands of years old, while liberalism dates back at most 2 or 3 centuries. It is an argument often made in India as well. Judaism and Hinduism have for thousands of years developed their own ways of dealing with diversity and social conflict, and own ways of thinking, own ways of looking at the world, own ways of looking at everything around them. Epistemic diversity kahan se aayega liberalism mein? Meenakshi Jain is a PhD, bro. Read her books. She cites everything very academically like JSD. I see. If you want to argue against peaceful religion, then watch Ex-Peaceful stream. Yeah. Then they demolish peacefulism like anything. Yeah. It's a civilizational thing. Islam believes that Mo has been pre-mentioned by every religious books. He uses Jews and Christians, but both of them Abrahamic. But he fell into our trap when he accepted the Mahamuz in Bhavishya Purana as their Muhammad, and it's a trap card for them. Judaism and Hinduism have for thousands of years developed their own ways of dealing with diversity and social conflict. It beggars belief that nothing on these matters can be learned from those traditions, or that we had to wait for the Western value of tolerance to finally see the light. This seems to be like J.S.I. Deepak's work. Okay, Tharoor says exactly right, which is why it is odd, to put it mildly, when Bruno proceeds to contradict himself by arguing that, quote, a civilization state is rooted in a fully developed political philosophy rather than a racial or national identity. It's not a contradiction, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. A civilization state is rooted in a fully developed political philosophy based on on the epistemology of that region's culture, religion, whatever you want to call it. Bruno's argument for the merits of the civilization state rests on defining it in a way that suits his argument. Bruno says, civilization is not identity. Exactly, he says. But identity emerges from a, Tharoor is saying, but identity emerges from a consciousness of belonging to a civilization, Christian, Islamic, Arab, Orthodox, Hindu, Jewish, whatever, with the distinct features exclusive to that civilization. Note one thing, that how easily Dr. Shashi Tharoor is equating Hindu with Christian, Islam, Arab, Orthodox, Jewish, etc. all the time, repeatedly in this article. He's saying Hindu is this, Hindu religion is this, and other religions are that, and these religions should not be allowed to have a civilizational state of their own. But when you argue as a Hindu to Tharoor or his likes, etc., those same people will then start conflating by saying that what is Hindu? There is no such thing as Hindu. Cholas were not Hindu, etc. Is Hinduism so diverse that nothing can be called Hindu? Or Hinduism is a concrete religion and a concrete set of people who can be equated with Jewish, Islamic, Arab, Orthodox, Christian, etc. Which one is it? This is a gigantic contradiction in their own argument. While he is right to insist on the distinction between a civilization state and a nation state, he fails to accept that civilizations do produce nationalism anchored in their unchanging... He fails to accept that civilizations do produce nationalism anchored in their unchanging verities, while liberal nation states are those that by being built on constitutions and institutions transcend the limitations of identity. Limitations of identity to promote ideas and values that apply to their citizens beyond considerations of race, religion or language. Again, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, where is he getting data to back up this claim? It's not like we have many civilization states. कहाँ से उनको पता चला कैसा होता है? While he is right to insist on the distinction between a civilization state and a nation state. Okay, Dr. Shashi Tharoor first needs to understand how a nation state was formed, how a secular nation state concept came about because of the Westphalian Treaty, which was, and then secularism as a concept as well, which was meant to have a conversation and a sort of reconciliation between the church and the king. The kings, the Christian kings, used to be at odds with the Pope all the time. So that's when the concept of secularism came in, that the state won't meddle in the affairs of the church, and the church won't meddle in the affairs of the state. That is secularism. If that is the thing that created secularism and nation statehood, and now we don't have any civilization states all around us to make any claims, where is Tharoor getting the data to say, see, nation state hoga to ye ho jayega, nation or civilization state hoga to ye ho jayega? ये claim आ कहाँ से रहा है? If you want to argue against, some comments. How to find balance between cultural moral subjectivism and objective morality, and how decoloniality helps in it. Decoloniality helps in looking at your own culture with your own lens, and this is the sentence that is most misunderstood. Looking at your own culture with your own lens does not mean defending your culture at any cost or the actions of your culture. This does not mean defend casteism. But you can say that, so see, this was the Jati Pratha, this is the Varnashram, these are the Hindu scholars who agreed with Varnashram and it being birth based. These are the Hindu scholars who did not agree with Varnashram being birth based. Okay, as opposed to that, if you have a so-called liberal or enlightened era thinking, universalist Renaissance era thinking or liberal thinking, then you will go ahead and say, see, this is Varnashram, it leads to casteism, birth based. Okay, end of story. Because if you have a decolonial way of thinking, if you have your own lens of looking at things, then you will go ahead and look at the complete picture. If you're a liberal, you don't need the complete picture because you are opposed to this idea of Hinduism, religion, everything, and Varnashram. Then you can just go ahead and carelessly conclude that, okay, there was Varna, seems like caste, okay, that is why blame them forever now. Rajiv Malhotra's argument on tolerance versus mutual respect, right? Nilesh, fun fact 2, Rashbihari Bose, the man who founded INA, was also the founder of Hindu Mahasabha in Japan. Okay, moral objectivity is universal because of the human species, and the cultural morality is also a product of the same species, so they need not be under contradiction. The last line is a contradiction. If constitution liberates from a civilizational identity, but it itself locks it down to its own book, that is the constitution, thus itself becomes a limitation. Yeah, that is why limitation of identity ka matlab kya hai? Mutual respect is not always good. Indian Hindu kings support tolerance, not mutual respect always. Give us some specific examples in which case you think mutual respect is not always good. I think mutual respect is good always in any situation. I would like to find out in which situation mutual respect might not be a good idea. Abhay is saying nation states are more identity focused than civilization state. Right. For example, exactly. That is what I was thinking. That ये सब right wing politics, actual bad right wing politics कहाँ से हुआ है? Civilization state में हुआ है. सब तो nation state में ही हुआ है. हमारा देश अच्छा है. बोल दिया अच्छा है. और कोई argument नहीं चाहिए. That kind of nationalism has happened in nation states only. Nation states are more identity focused than civilization states. Yes, language, ethnicity, and mainly race, etc. Civilization state is a broader concept. Yeah. Okay. Transcend the limitations of identity. The very concept of a civilization state is profoundly illiberal. It implies that any attempt to introduce quote-unquote imported ideas like democracy or human rights must be resisted because they are foreign to the civilization in whose name the state is being constructed. Okay, Dr. Shashi Tharoor is conflating a lot of things here. Let me drink some coffee. Dr. Shashi Tharoor here is pretending like the Indic wing criticize imported ideas for simply being imported. Okay, he is doing it deliberately. This is very unfortunate. I don't expect these kinds of unfair debating from Dr. Shashi Tharoor, but he's completely ignoring why the particular imported ideas are criticized. Okay, even Aurobindo was hugely inspired by Western thinkers. Are we criticizing Aurobindo for having imported ideas? Are we criticizing Aurobindo for being inspired from what's that name? That French thinker. I forgot his name. तो imported ideas जब आके हिंदुओं के पीछे आग लगा रहा है, those are the imported ideas we are against. Okay. Ideas like democracy or human rights are opposed by Indic wingers, as if we are saying चलो democracy को खत्म करो, राजा बनाओ मोदी को. That is also not what we are saying. Even if we had Janapad, etc., civilizational states had democracy in some form or the other, and civilization states which aren't there many numbers now in Israel, there is still democracy. So where does he get this argument that civilization states are objectively better than or worse than nation states? Okay, human rights again. Human rights is the biggest Hindu-phobic concept in the world. Only the human rights of Middle Eastern colonizers seem to be violated, of no one else. Not even white people, not Hindu people, nowhere. White people were being sold as sex slaves by North African Arabs. That you'll never hear in critical race theory studies. Other black tribes took prisoners of other black people and sold them off to white people. You'll never hear these concepts क्योंकि human rights का motive है सिर्फ कुछ लोगों को अच्छा बोलो, कुछ लोगों को खराब बोलो. Based on this, that is the human rights we are talking about when we say that human rights must be resisted. Not because the rights of humans must be resisted per se as a concept. Human rights as a political ontology, that's what needs to be resisted. Like any time a genocide or mass murder happens, it's because some people play politics with religion with politics or something, or some people are bad, and then the argument that it was done for economic reasons, like what happened in Noakhali when 10,000 Hindus were slaughtered. Mahatma Gandhi tried to stop it, didn't happen. He came back. Some Bengali students caught hold of him in Kolkata by saying, Bapu, why couldn't you prevent it? Bapu says, do you know the people who have who did the genocide in Noakhali? Who are they? What is their profession, identity, etc.? Profession mainly, economic class he meant. So the students say that, no, Bapu, we don't know. He says, they are poor farmers, landless farmers. And do you know the people who got murdered? Who are they? They are people who live in big houses. They are zamindars, etc. So just because I am living in a flat, I have a home that is objectively nicer looking than a poor person's home, I deserve to get slaughtered. That is the most hardcore far left communist position. And this guy was going around saying he wants Ram Rajya in India. So, and then this argument was used in the case of Kashmiri Pandits, Exodus genocides as well. This argument was also used just 3, 4, 5 months back in Mominpur, during Lakshmi Puja, I think, when Bengali Hindus living in that small slum neighborhood were beaten up, their homes destroyed because they tried to celebrate Lakshmi Puja, which is otherwise a very Muslim-dominated area. You can understand by the name. It's called Mominpur in Kolkata, and in Republic Bangla, they brought on a panel of intellectuals. They consciously said that we don't want any politicians today because we don't want to further the flame, etc. Whatever confrontation is going on. 5 days curfew had to happen. All schools and colleges, offices, everything were closed down in that entire Khidirpur area for 5 days. So, in Republic Bangla, a so-called right-wing channel, their intellectuals concluded, the anchor concluded that, yeah, it's just poverty, bro. Poverty hai, ashiksha hai, isliye hua. I still remember that line. I will never forget this line in my life. He said, if you check the homes of those people who did the damaging, breaking and beating people up, breaking the houses of Hindu Dalits live there. If you check their houses, you will see that no helicopters land on their homes. They don't have swimming pools in their terrace. That's why, and see, you will notice that they are maybe undereducated or uneducated. That is why they get dragged into these things. Which, all these things are exactly applicable to the Bengali Hindu Dalits who also got beaten up. Okay? And that is the idea of human rights that we reject. Human rights activists say that when Muslims kill Hindus, beat up the houses of Hindus or people, that's because of poverty. But mysteriously, Hindu poor people seem to be always quiet as Hindus. Okay. Then comes the case of retaliation, like in the case of Gujarat riots. Whenever retaliation happens, then they get the excuse to say that there was blame to be shared on both sides. There are about 10,000 books written on partition in India, Bangladesh, West Bengal and Bangladesh partition, both in 1905 and 1947. Which all of those partition literature is all about saying there was blame on both sides. Khushwant Singh's train to Pakistan, there was bloodshed on both sides. On both sides, there were bad people going around doing bad things. So when retaliation happens, blame on both sides. When one side attacks the other, it's poverty and lack of education. And that is the core constitution, core moral value of the people calling themselves human rights activists. That is why we reject human rights, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. The rejection of values like democracy, civil liberties, minority rights kahan band ho raha hai? Minority rights are not given in nation states that belong to a different religion. Democracy, civil rights, minority rights, freedom of the press and so on. The rejection of these values that liberalism trumpets as universally desirable is justified on the grounds that a civilization state needs political institutions that reflect its own traditions, history and culture. A civilization state is inhospitable territory to religious and ethnic minorities. Where is he getting this argument from? Based on what? Why is Dr. Shashi Tharoor talking like a college level SFI guy? A civilization state is inhospitable territory to religious and ethnic minorities, dissidents and challengers because they are seen as intruders into a civilization to which they do not essentially belong. Where is this happening? Even in Russia. Putin is pissed off because they are intruding in his civilization. He's just a strongman dictator into a civilization to which they do not essentially belong and which regards what matters to them as alien and therefore illegitimate. He is constructing the sentence as if it's an ongoing situation somewhere. Where the fuck is this going on? Okay, let's read some comments. Oh, nice. So many comments. Mutual respect is not always good. Yeah. Abhay is saying nation states are more identity focused. Yeah. Nihilis says Savarkar was also inspired by Mazzini. Okay. Abhay says India has many languages, ethnicities, cultures, etc. What keeps India together? Civilizational consciousness and connectivity. Yeah. Though Indian state has undermined this civilization identity. Yeah. This is why we have race wars, language wars, ethnic wars, etc. And also, this point reminds me, I was going to say this. Dr. Shashi Tharoor seems to think that people who are liberals, or the core ideas of liberalism, enlightenment, renaissance, etc., they, all of them, happened out of the blue, as if randomly one magical thing was conjured up just 200 300 years from today, and then everyone started talking about these things. Liberalism, aha, एक नया idea है, थोड़ा use करके देखिए. That's not what happened. Liberal thinkers were drawing from different kinds of literature and epistemologies, religious books, etc. All their ideas are based on some fundamental thinking that was already done by other people as well. Liberals and liberal thinkers, the pioneers of liberalism, were not aliens who randomly came to earth and created a concept called liberalism. Okay, so when Shashi Tharoor says that civilization states were bad, liberalism came about, and now we have all nice things, that's not the case. Liberalism was also founded on things, on based on concepts that were already present in other places elsewhere, in civilization states themselves. Okay, checking some more comments now. India has many languages, ethnicities, yeah. Tolerance has limitations, but mutual respect is kind of obligation. Hindu or dharmic kings are tolerant to grant land Muslims to build their mosques, but didn't allow cow slaughter. Yeah, that is based on mutual respect. He is respecting the whoever is coming to live as a Muslim. That guy is respecting that. Yeah, I don't want to slaughter cows here because I get to live here. That is the respect. That is the mutual respect. That's why Mohandas didn't concern more plough trades, because they were landless farmers. Yeah, same. Ninar says, it is our geography that binds us together. We are separated from the rest of the world by the mighty Himalayas and the great ocean, and constitute a whole by ourselves. It's a sacred geography, by the way. Mutual respect is from both sides. It is not one-sided or condescending. The argument of Noakhali is false. Yes, the zamindar was a Hindu, but do make the argument why the so-called mass did not attack the Muslim zamindars that immediately surrounded Noakhali. All were Muslims. Yeah. Also, this argument can be used. We can simply go what Muslims face. They face as the foreigners oppress the native culture and identity. Do they want to go to this line of argument? I guess not. Yeah. A lot of Western Renaissance ideas were based on Greek and Roman paganism. Yes, of course. And even today, you see, every time a pagan culture or a pre-Abrahamic culture dies down in some country or nation or the other, then they are all for that past pre-Abrahamic culture, right? Which I've made countless videos on, not countless, 1 or 2 videos on this topic. That, see, everyone likes Vikings. There's a Viking movie, there are Viking series, there are Viking games. Everyone likes Viking, Norse mythology, Thor. तो इनको मार के भगा दिया. Now everyone likes Vikings. Same thing with Greek philosopher. Aristotle ने ये कहा है, Plato ने ये कहा है. उनका paganism गया कहा, सब Christian बन गए. So everyone in liberalism draws from their past as well. Everything is a building up on what past scholarship there is. No one comes up with fascinating ideas. Harsh says, I want to point out one thing about these liberals, that we should not talk about Muslim atrocities because it would upset them and create communal disharmony. But these same people also talk about caste atrocities, yes. And actually, even the counter argument is also similar. If they say that, see, why do Muslims need these rights, extra rights, what's that, Waqf board, etc.? Why do Muslims need to be treated with extra sympathy, like an innocent child, etc.? Because they are the minority, and they could never have done too much to harm Hindus, because Hindus are a majority. The same applies in the caste equation as well. When were Brahmins a majority in the entire country? Brahmins were always a minority. So that means even Brahmins did not do anything wrong. Nice. A discussion on what seems to be Khalistan resurgence in Punjab. I am absolutely not educated on it. If you all can recommend a paper or a book or something, then we can discuss. I have no education on that topic. Okay. Or 10 minute baki hai. Let's finish this article. So a civilization state is inhospitable territory, based on what? We don't know. And which regards what matters to them as alien and therefore illegitimate. Indeed, this is exactly what we have seen in the biggest and most powerful example of a civilization state in the contemporary world, China. China is not a civilization state. A nation state, if a nation state ends up having a dictator, that automatically becomes a civilization state. What kind of a conclusion is this? The entire argument for China's rejection of liberal democracy and Western political concepts is that Chinese civilization has a distinct character going back thousands of years within, in Martin Jacques' words, a very different view of the relationship between the individual and society. But is the Chinese Communist Party making those claims? Even if they are lying. Why are they called a communist party and not a Chinese civilization party of some sort? Why don't they have a Chinese name in their fucking party's name? So even if they claim it, it's a lie. It's just a communist dictatorship. Communist dictatorship में कहाँ से क्या civilization ला गया? सोवियत यूनियन में भी तो था, वेनेजुएला में है, क्यूबा में है, तो ये सब भी civilization state है. This is then seen by apologists for China as explaining and indeed justifying its authoritarian one-party communist dictatorship, suppression of minorities, repression of free speech, and outlawing of political dissent. The notion of a Chinese civilization state portrayed so benignly in Bruno's telling is little more than a fig leaf for tyranny. Okay, he is now using the defense of Chinese civilization, which is in essence a communist dictatorship, to claim that civilization state will be a bad thing for every country. अजीब आदमी है. He is saying that no, Chinese civilization में तो communist dictatorship है, ये तो civilization state नहीं है, according to Tharoor's own argument it seems like. But he is also saying that because China is a civilization state, and if this is what a civilization state looks like, then it will be bad for all other countries. Caste atrocities. Nirajan, do you know about the recent Seattle ban on caste discrimination? No, I have not seen that episode yet. I think Kushal Mehra brought them on, right? Or Shamsharma. Yeah, Shamsharma brought them on to discuss that topic. The thing is, they take from the dead in a museum while we take our ideas from our living history to build the future. Yeah. Communism. Okay. So apologists for China. If someone is apologizing for China and saying that they are being atrocious just because they are a civilization state, they are wrong. And just because they are wrong on China does not mean they have to be wrong on India and Israel as well. Shashi Tharoor's universalist idea does not go out of his head. एक आइडिया सबको अच्छा लगेगा. चाइना से बैड सिविलाइजेशन स्टेट है तो सबको बैड सिविलाइजेशन स्टेट बनना पड़ेगा. इफ एट ऑल चाइना इज अ सिविलाइजेशन स्टेट. The notion of a Chinese civilization state is portrayed so benignly in Bruno's telling, then Bruno is wrong. Bruno is wrong on China. इसके लिए इंडिया और इजराइल क्या करेगा? It is possible to be proud of, and that is decoloniality. When someone was asking how to counter moral relativism with someone's own epistemology, this is how. I'm not defending China's actions because I'm thinking from a decolonial perspective. I'm saying that there can be many truths or many answers to a question. Shashi Tharoor is the one who is saying that it's all universal. Civilizational state China में हुआ तो खराब हुआ, अब सब जगह खराब होगा. That is not the case. If at all China is a civilization state. It is possible to be proud of one's civilization and honor one's traditions while striving to ensure that one's nation upholds the principles and values one deems desirable for oneself and one's fellow citizens. While doing so, the reason I resist the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party's attempts to reconstitute India as a civilization state is precisely because such a notion has no place for non-Hindus, some 20% of the country's population, except as second-class citizens confined to subordinate roles. How and what is the basis for this claim? What? One single policy position, one single law that Shashi Tharoor can name to say that, yeah, this is how BJP has been behaving? This is not the case. My idea of an inclusive India embraces different languages. Yeah, Hinduism doesn't embrace different languages. Religions, regions. Yeah, Hinduism doesn't embrace different religions and regions. And ethnicities. Yeah, Hinduism doesn't embrace different ethnicities on an equal basis. Yeah, Hinduism doesn't do that. And emerges from classical liberalism. Yeah, and classical liberalism, according to Shashi Tharoor, came right out of the head of one person magically one fine morning. He was not building upon the ideas of some other people. I can justify it in terms of my civilizational heritage too, but resist the notion of a civilization state because its advocates have a narrow and exclusionary idea of what such a state implies. Okay, now he is kind of pointing to the core problem. He is talking about advocates. Some advocates might have that exclusive and narrow exclusionary view, but that number is very low. And how can I prove this claim? By seeing and by noticing how very less numbers of time Hindus actually retaliate to any oppression or violence. Everyone thought there would be riots when Kashmir Files came out. Nothing happened. Palghar sadhus got beaten to death. Nothing happened. Hindus, if Hindus behave like other religions, there would be plenty of causes to create riots and mass murders from Hindus as well. But Hindus don't do that because they are not stupid. Because its advocates have a narrow and exclusionary idea. तो ये narrow and exclusionary idea बहुत कम हिंदुओं का है. The entire article has been written just to oppose BJP RSS idea of India. Okay, Machais sees liberalism as itself part of European civilization, which it is. But if that means it should be denied to others hailing from different civilization traditions, I cannot agree. It should not be denied, it should be rejected. There is room for debate on how far the supposedly universal principles advanced by advocates of liberalism are truly universal, but none on the standards most human beings seek to apply to themselves. That is actually true. There is room for debate, and that is what we are doing. We are debating how far the supposedly universal principles have advanced by advocates of liberalism are truly universal. When one hears of the unsuitability or ethnocentrism of liberal norms, what are the human rights that someone in a civilization state can do without? The right to life, freedom from torture, the right not to be enslaved, not to be physically assaulted, not to be arbitrarily arrested, imprisoned or executed. No one actually advocates the abridgment of any of these rights for themselves. Okay, notice one thing. ये जो अभी एग्जांपल्स दिया, इससे मुझे याद आया ये सब कहाँ पे होता है. एक सिविलाइजेशन स्टेट है जहाँ पे ये होता है, ठीक है, उसको मेंशन ही नहीं किया. इंडिया, इजराइल, चाइना ये सब बोलते फिर रहे डॉक्टर शशि थरूर. इट फकिंग हैपेंस इन ईरान. ईरान को मेंशन क्यों नहीं कर रहा है? The right not to be enslaved, not to be physically assaulted, not to be arbitrarily arrested, imprisoned or executed. Shashi Tharoor is saying civilization states, whenever civilization states occur, they already immediately start doing these things. But mysteriously, it actually happens in Iran. It does not happen in Israel. It has never happened in India. It will never happen in India, and no one should let these things happen in India, our descendants, etc. But this happens in Iran, which Shashi Tharoor doesn't even address. Objections to the applicability of democracy and human rights standards are all too frequently voiced by authoritarian rulers and power elites to rationalize violations that keep them in power. Yes, they are dictators, they are bad people, yes. But human rights, we already discussed it, human rights is a very lopsided concept in itself. And that is why they are opposed by us. Why Putin opposes them? He has his own different reasons. Why we oppose it? We have our own different reasons. That is decolonial thinking. Diversity of reasons. Rationalize violations. Just as the devil can quote scripture for his purpose, the advocacy of civilization states all too often masks the malign intentions of tyrants. In international politics, similarly, the notion that civilization states can follow their own standards overlooks the need for universally accepted norms to sustain world order, which even states like China and the former Soviet Union had hitherto upheld as being in everyone's interest. Principles like the absolute sovereignty of states, the inviolability of borders, non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries, and the inadmissibility of the use of force to settle disputes all provided common ground to all countries, whether civilization states or otherwise, to live together amicably. Yeah, बहुत amicably live किया है लोगों ने. Machais argues that in a world of civilization states, the ruling global principle is something akin to balance of power. End quote. That isn't good enough. The world needs something better than that if we are not to return to the law of the jungle. Oh, khatam ho gaya. Okay. And it's 2:30 as well. Exact the time I had planned. 12 a.m. in the night to 2:30. That is when the article finished, okay? And let me read the comments again. Shashi Tharoor thinks civilization is a puritanical idea and cannot be influenced by other cultures. This is clearly not correct. And even if it is correct, it's correct for some civilizations. Maybe not our civilization at least. So he is applying the standards that he's seeing in other places on everyone else, even though mysteriously ignoring what Iran is doing. Okay, so let me read out my live stream schedule once again. Every night 12 to 2:30 a.m. Except Sunday nights. So Monday night we will discuss Manusmriti, Tuesday nights we will discuss Brahma Puran, Wednesdays we will discuss either a new paper or history of Indian philosophy, for which you can donate to my UPI ID given below. It costs 1045 rupees just. You all can crowdfund this kind of, or we will have to read from the archives as well. I would like to hold these 3 volumes of books in my hand and then read. It's just a nice feeling. scrolling etc. is too irritating. Then Thursdays we will discuss a technical paper from JSTOR. Fridays we will again discuss history of Indian philosophy written by Surendranath Dasgupta in the early 1900s. And Saturday nights we will discuss Arthashastra. Okay, so that's it, guys. Thanks for hanging out in the middle of the night and learning interesting things. We all learned something new today, and especially this hilarious article from Dr. Shashi Tharoor, which I will have to include in the thumbnail now. Okay, good night, guys. See you tomorrow.